What up? Man, we gonna go to the store? Oh. Can you go to the store? Sorry. Never mind, I guess. Wow. Fucking no love. What is going on? Oh, what the fuck is wrong? Check, check. It's a little too loud, but that's all right. What is going on, guys? I am hearing myself in my own. There it is. All right. What is going on? Busy fight week this weekend. I didn't get to go live very much this week. Actually only once other than today. But we're going to go through it all. We got the White House UFC 250 preview. We're going to do, is Josh Hockett, is he too much for the sport, or is he just right for what the UFC's become? We're going to have a serious conversation on that. I also want to talk about Luke Thomas's latest interview with God, what's that podcaster's name? He's like, I think he might be like Filipino, maybe. I don't know. It's like something investigates or something like that. Anyway, he did the show talking about how the UFC and Dana White specifically have continued to like relitigate the idea of what Trump has meant to the UFC specifically, but MMA overall. If you listen to Dana's speeches at the correspondence dinners in the past, or at the RNC's circle jerk they have every year, like the DNC does. He said some things along the lines of like Dana saved the UFC, or I'm sorry, Dana said, basically like Trump saved the UFC. So we're gonna look at those videos later. We're gonna do the SmackDown watch along. We got the King of the Ring show finishing up tonight. But I'll be honest, the thing that I'm looking forward to more than anything, more than SmackDown, more than the White House card on Sunday, is Bam Rodriguez's fight this Saturday. And here's the thing, guys. You can tell that this is going to be a tough fight on this kid. You know it to be true. And part of the reason is the choke job that took place a couple nights ago by the San Antonio Spurs. Now, if you are somebody who follows or has followed in the past and knows some of my feelings as far as different sports go, obviously I'm a Cowboy guy and a Texans guy. That's from Texas, played football in Texas, and I don't think that'll ever change about me. As far as baseball, I played it growing up, so like I don't have a favorite team really other than the Astros. I'll root for the Rangers, right? But like I have favorite players, right? Like Hanley Ramirez is like one of my all-time favorite players. As far as like right now, Jackson Cherio is one of my all-time favorite players right now. Woods from the Nationals, all these guys, right? And I say all that to say, when it comes to basketball, I like the Lakers, but I hate the Spurs, right? Can we get that distinction there? I like the Lakers, right? They're the team I root for. My uncle rooted for him. I remember all the banners he used to have in his room, watching the games, yelling from his bedroom. And when he passed when I was in ninth grade, I decided I'm gonna keep rooting for the Lakers for him. It was a situation where the Spurs like made it a living hell to be a Lakers fan. And this whole idea of like, oh, they play precision basketball. Oh, they're just so perfect at bat. Look at them do. Like, the hell are we talking about? Tim Duncan was like one of the greatest players. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong. Yes, they played fundamental basketball and they did it well, but it's like they didn't create fundamental basketball. Like, I don't know. Sometimes that team, I think, gets a little too much credit, but I digress. The point I'm making here is that in all the sports I've watched, and for all the years I've watched it, it was hard to recall a bigger choke job than what we saw on Tuesday. No, wait. Was it Tuesday? Right? Yeah, Tuesday. No, Wednesday. Wednesday. My bad. Um, what was it? Was it the Falcons and the Patriots? I think people keep talking about, which that was, I remember that. But yeah, the Spurs just shit the bed hard, dude. And now poor Bam, dude. Poor Bam has to come out. Yeah, but what was Tim Duncan's nickname, Mario? What was his nickname? I mean, they called him and David Robinson the Twin Towers. Uh, what do they call him? The Giant Malito? No, that's not. Dude, come on, stop. All right, you can't just say it in another language and it doesn't count, dude. Come on, stop. No, I don't remember what Tim Duncan's nickname was. What was it? Was it like the? Was it like? Hold on, wait. It's coming to me. No, it's not. Never mind. I forgot. Tell me what it is. But anyway. Oh, Raw started. Let's hear it. Oh, we're gonna find out the stipulation for Gunther and for Cody Rhodes, which this is the exact same thing they did for Drew McIntyre. Can we not like admit that fully right now? That this is the exact same thing they did for Drew McIntyre, like almost to a T, right? A match that Drew feels like he was cheated out of, and then he gets the GM to basically agree to all his terms in order to rematch the champion. Yo, I'm so tired of the Usos, dude. I'm so sick of I know Jay's winning tonight, but God, I want it to be like he lost and now Roman's coming in and he's like, "Oh, you're going to fucking lose too. You're a fucking loser. Let's have a match now." How long has it been that Jay's played the cuck role on WWE TV? Like legit, how long has it been? Because I think it's been like over a year for sure. But it's just this like LA Knight, CM Punk, Cody Rhodes, even Jimmy at one point. It was just like, yeah, you trying to be little Roman. And then he's always gets like the same kind of mad. He's like, how dare you? How dare you say the thing that everybody else is saying to me? How dare you accuse me of the thing that I hear on the fans every day? Uh-oh. Rhea hurt? I don't know. This is like kind of just a big giant waste. Like, hey, we need to get Jade and these other girls over. Oh, okay. Well, Rhea's hurt. Oh man, that sucks. Well, what could we do? How about we make it kayfabe and we sell the idea of Jade beating the shit out of one of them, right? And then now Rhea's hurt, right? I mean, didn't we have that whole angle on Jade that literally never got resolved? And then that was so uninspired. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like, why not just for it? It's like so stupid. The big fundamental, that's not what they called them. How dare you call me a tag team wrestler? That was a good one, Matt. Matt's already Already coming with the jokes tonight. No, I'm not live on Twitch or TikTok. Probably not going to go live on TikTok, but I am going to go live on Twitch after the thing. So, like, just so everybody can be cool, like, the whole thing was me setting up the OBS to stream from YouTube and Twitch and TikTok all at the same time, right? So that way I could game on all three. I don't have to pick one. Like, I'm a 40-year-old who doesn't understand how any of it works, which is exactly what I am. So it's accurate. But we're good to go. Yeah. I don't remember it being the big fundamental. That almost sounds like you're trolling a little bit. Like, never mind. I'm not going to say it. Tim Duncan was the missionary position of basketball. Yeah, he was. He was the missionary position. But he had, like, how can I make this work? But he had all the hip and thrusting muscles that you could ever hope to enjoy as a man gifted. Um Missionary, absolutely. I will. That's fair. I think. I don't even think that's controversial. I will say this though: he got the job done from that position in ways that most men can't. Certainly not me. Again, this is an NBA metaphor, right? I'm not. I'm not admitting that I don't please my wife sexually on live. What I am admitting to is that he was the best missionary basketball player. I'm like, what the fuck do I even say now? Google that nickname and tell me what pops up. All right. I'm sure it does. If you're that confident, I'm sure it does. Let me see. What'd you say? The big fundamental. All right. Let's all watch together. How about that? All right. The big fundamental. Yep, Tim Duncan. Absolutely right. Too boring. One of the top fucking things is too boring. His video, dude. Oh man. All right. Let me tell y'all what's not going to be boring. All right. God damn it. Yes, that's what I meant. Tomorrow night, Jesse Bam Rodriguez, 23-0 out of San Antonio, Texas. Stand up. If you know, you know. Now, I've been to the north side of San Antonio in my life. I was a college student. Car broke down, wrong place of town. But let me tell you, I made lifelong friends on the north side. I've I have friends that currently live on the south side, although they're from Corpus. Um, Everybody loves Bam, right? Everybody, west side, yo, it don't matter if you're from the rich side of town or from the poor side of town. If you have any awareness of at all of combat sports or specifically boxing, you're a fan of Bam Rodriguez. That's a lot of pressure to be put on the fact that he's defending both his WBC and WBO, both his WBC and WBO rubber baby bumpy bumper. That's not how you do it. The WBC and the WBO World Super Flyweight title tomorrow night against Antonio Vargas, who is a fighter who he should beat, right? He's fought better competition, or not better competition. Let me see this. He's fought in fighters with more skill than Antonio Vargas. However, this is his biggest test to date. Why is it his biggest test to date? Because San Antonio right now is on the map. They're on the map that you don't want to be on the map of. And that is the biggest blunders in sports fucking history. All right. You know who else is on that list? The Seahawks and Pete Carroll and Marshawn Lynch. The hell? Fucking dude. Is BoxRec is basically 2000s internet. Like a BoxRec is the equivalency to a 2000s porn website, right? In the 2000s, if you went to a website for porn and it was just like boop, 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 pop-ups. You know what I'm saying? It's like, oh yeah. Thanks BoxRec for promoting fucking Zavapret. I don't even know how to fucking pronounce that. But anyway, he's fighting at the Desert Diamond Arena, Glendale, Arizona, which is funny, by the way, because for those of you that have been watching boxing long enough, you know that Lyra just jumped on Jade's back. That is a weird way to start the match. Here's the thing. I hope they don't think they can just Obafemi like the biggest person in the ring, right? Please don't tell me you're going to give Jade this Obafemi booking because that's absolutely not believable. Yep, there it is. She's getting it. Double suplex on the current IC champion. Oh, just caught Lyra like nothing. Yikes. So obviously this match is going to end with Jade and Charlotte in a feud, right? But without the title, does it mean anything? No, I'd still want to see it. But I'd rather have a US title or something on the line. Damn, Charlotte missing that fucking chop. Okay, so anyway, Bam Rodriguez, if you did not realize, is fighting his toughest fight to date. Hey, what's going on, Bruce? Champ. You were right, Matt. He's fighting his toughest fight to date. And again, I'm not saying Antonio Vargas is the most skilled fighter that Bam Rodriguez has fought. No, not at all. What I am saying, though, is that this is the most high pressured moment that Bam could ever be on. Now, you could argue, well, you know, come on, Mario. People in America don't watch boxing. You know that. And I'd say, yeah, you're right. I do know that. I know that by working in the sport for 10 years and realizing that very few people know who boxers are outside of the like Floyd Mayweathers and Manny Pacquiao's, right? What the fuck? Liv Morgan's just getting her ass beat. Dude, oh my God. Tell me why. Okay, real quick. Tell me why this makes sense for Tiffany Stratton's character. Why? Why is it that the Barbie B word, I'm not going to call her a B word because somebody in my chat the other day said I can't call women B words. Fine. If that's the new rule, then I'll not say it. I'll find another word to say. How about repetitive? How about that? But the thing is that, oh, nice. Yo, Charlotte's got some wild gear on today. Why did I just noticing that? All right. So anyway, I know I got my ADHD bat on today, but Antonio Vargas, the Desert Diamond Arena, Glendale, Arizona. The point I was trying to make is this is the same arena, if you didn't know, after Trump was elected in 2016. 2 years later, 3 years later, no, sometime in that 4 years, Arizona passed that law about workers, immigrants, and specifically Hispanic people or people of Hispanic origin, which is, you know, much of the state, had to report, which is something like you wouldn't expect athletes to do. Like right now, if you've heard, maybe you haven't heard, but like FIFA's going on, right? The soccer tournament, the big soccer tournament, it's going on right now. And several people have been arrested actually, and detained, or I should say detained. I shouldn't say arrested, but they've been detained, right? Actually have that story here on my phone. I could bring it up in a little bit. But you know, like I said, if you pay attention to the news, then you've seen that some of these people have been detained, and you know, like photographer for Iran, who's like an award-winning, you know, photographer, wasn't allowed in. And again, I'm not advocating that anybody should or shouldn't be let in. All I'm saying is that we're at a heightened time now, and we're not like in a situation where it's like super easy to like accompany other people, right? Maybe we should have given it up, right? Maybe we should have just given it up, right? If we were going to do that. And again, like I'm not advocating for anybody to be kicked out or brought into the States. What I'm advocating for is sports to be played on a fair basis, right? That's my problem with the UFC fight. That's my problem that I've always had with the UFC card. Okay. My problem isn't that I don't think that MMA and White House that I don't like. I think it's too barbaric for the White House lawn. I don't believe that to be true what I believe is that it's inappropriate, right, to lift up a company that does MMA in a way that the government shouldn't be, because this is a certification that's going on Sunday. Trump is saying this is the UFC. This is the place for MMA. And that is true. But at the same time, like, you're the government. So then are we going to have a MMA match or an MMA card every Sunday or like every summer in June? And like, you're going to use one championship next year or like some other obscure UFC or MMA fight promotion? You see what I'm saying? Like, I'm not advocating for that. I'm just saying the government's supposed to be like a neutral thing, right? That's first of all. Second of all, you have a situation where you cannot control the obstacles, right? People are talking about the weather. It's supposed to be rainy, right? And that was already something we knew, right? The data that we have on precipitation and from year to year, like what it looks like it was pointing for that. Like, yes, we don't have 30-day forecasts, but we do have enough information to say, hey, we're having a wetter than normal pause. We're having a wetter than normal June. It must be the cologne I've been wearing. No, but the thing is that if Cyril Gane wins, right? I want to know that he won the fake heavyweight title in a real fight. You get what I'm saying? Like, I want it to be like these are the same terms that everyone fights on, right? Like imagine you get to the World Series, Game 7, and they've all been played on the same sort of either artificial turf or grass, that they all get played on, right? And then they come on and they're like, hey, you know what? We have this, we have moon rocks that we've just duplicated. So we're going to replace the whole ground with moon rocks and we're going to see how that works out. Like, no, then we're not playing the World Series. We're not playing baseball. You're not fighting the kind of fair fight that the UFC should be guaranteeing, that other boxing commissions guarantee. You should be fighting that same kind of fair fight. And if you couldn't fight it, if you couldn't control the elements like bugs, like rain, like the heat, because it's going to be bad humidity, bad humidity. And take it from a dude who's fought in really bad humidity. It's fucking disgusting. It's like so gross. You're just dripping everywhere. Your fucking opponent. Like, I remember tasting fucking show kids fucking sweat in my mouth, just like sprayed in my mouth when he was shoulder checking me a lot. If you go back and look at the tape, he grabbed me from behind the head and he was doing this, and the ref let him get away with that shit. A lot of people were like, oh man, you didn't protect your body. I'm like, how can I protect my body when he's holding my head? I'm trying to fucking get it off. I'm like, he's doing this shit literally. Anyway, besides the point, that shit was hot as hell out there, and it wasn't even hot. Like, I walked during the day, right? Nobody knows this story. Ness was actually a little mad at me when I did this. We were at Border Wars in Wisconsin, and I was mostly chilling by myself, right? Because I was getting ready for a fight. And we were staying in this badass Airbnb. We're all eating there. The fighters, people that were just going to watch, and trainers. And then obviously the people that own the Airbnb, they ate with us. They made the food and stuff. So why am I still sharing this? My bad. So we get to, he said nobody's talking about Bam. No, you're right. But Bam can save the city of San Antonio. Salute, Mario. Have a great weekend, bro. Shoe Shine, you're the champ. Hey, if you want to come by anytime during the weekend, during the Bam fight, during the UFC, I mean, I know UFC MMA is not your bag, but we'll be live for sure. Jade with the near fall. So what ended up happening is everybody was going to the fights, right? Now I'm the main event, right? Obviously. No, I'm just playing. No, I mean, I was the main event because, like, I don't know if people know this, but people didn't like me on TBV. A lot of people didn't. And I get it, right? I get it. Like, I'm a good shit talker, right? When Ness let me off the leash, yeah, I would make people cry. I dropped a couple of verses in my history of TBV, and we lost Patreons because of it. I'm talking about like long time, like top tier, month-to-month Patreons that would still donate to the show, right? And because I put them in a verse and said something, then they never came back. Never came back. So like a lot of times Ness will hold me like accountable to that stuff, right? But we would be in this situation where like oh, okay, so Mario's gonna fight. I want to make sure he's the pussy that I think he is. That's the mentality from TBV people that didn't like me, and it was a lot of them, honestly. Because the people that like me, the people that fuck with me to this day. Like they still watch this show. I still get people all the time like, "Yo, you're my favorite, TBV host ever." Blah blah blah. But I mean, not blah blah blah. I really appreciate that shit. But the point I'm making is that, um, it was a situation where I was put in position to be the guy that everybody hated. And I'm not trying to be like a martyr about it. I'm not trying to cry about it. Not at all. I played into it, right? Like I knew talking the real shit about things that they didn't want to hear. And that soft ass audience, because that's what they are. They are soft. Like they wouldn't want to hear, right? So when I say, oh, the UK is a better fandom than America, right? And maybe this isn't as obvious in 2013, 2014, fair enough. But your whole argument, right? You lose, right? Time has told. We're done. This argument's over. The UK is definitely the better fandom, right? And so having those types of conversation, having those types of situations, put me in a situation where everybody wanted to see me lose. Everybody wanted to see me get my ass kicked. And so I went there with a super hostile energy. The first time around, it was hostile, but Ness, we were all, me and Ness and Doomy, we were together, right? We were coming from NY, or we were coming from Jersey actually. And we drove to Pittsburgh. So like we were the crew. Like nobody was gonna say shit to me. You know what I mean? Um, and then the second time I was more on my own because they were the crew, right? Like Doomy was gonna corner me, but they were all had a job to do, right? Like I barely helped when I was there fighting. And I told Ness, like, I'm not gonna help. I'm not gonna commentate. Don't ask me to do nothing. And he knew, I mean, he was cool with it. Like he wasn't tripping. But we get there, yeah, it was fucking gross, dude. It was so disgusting. The bugs were like sticking to you, and there's just like a swarm. It was like a cloud, bro. Like no shit. It was like a cloud. And so, again, all I'm saying is when I fought there, it was like different atmosphere. Yeah, we'll do, bro. Sunday UFC and hockey for me, same time. Hell yeah, champ. You watching FIFA? I'm gonna put it on the background. I have to cover SmackDown tonight. Um, but I'm gonna put on America. Yo, this guy at my brother's work, he's like a real hardcore fan of soccer. He said, don't be surprised if America loses tonight. Now, obviously, I want them to win, just like I wanted Mexico to win. And that Mexico Japan match next week's gonna be really good. See who ends up as the top team in there. But you know how it goes. Nobody said you're their favorite TBV host ever. You aren't even your favorite TBV host ever. Yeah, fair enough. That's fair enough. But no, I've been told that many, many, many times. Here's the thing. I'm gonna be honest about it. I'm just gonna tell this story. I once saw Akin Barak at a fight I was covering in San Antonio, I think, for DAZN. This is when they still had their DAZN show. And like I knew Ness was the guy, right? Ness is the guy everybody watches. Like I'm just the guy who's a co-host, right? Who gets paid to do this. That's it. But that was like the first time, and it would happen a lot that year. I remember that summer specifically, where people that like I watched and admired, right? Paulie, Akin Barak, all these other people, and they would be like, "Oh, I know you. You're the mustache guy. I fuck with you. I like you." Or like, "Oh man, when Ness be getting crazy, you're the man I'm waiting for." Like shit like that, and I would be like, "What? You know who the fuck I am? Me? Nah, you're tripping. Stop. You must be confusing me with somebody else." And they're like, you're the fucking mustache handlebar guy. That's who you are. Or they would be like, "Oh, you're Super Mario. We know who you are." Some shit like that, right? Uh, but that's not why people fucked. I think people just like dropped off a bunch. I promoted my ass for it. Yeah, you did. You did promote. I was being sarcastic, but now all in serious, I am the best co-host. I'm like Roman Reigns on TBV. Yeah, I think you are a good co-host. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. You definitely one of my favorites, obviously. I wouldn't invite you on. You wouldn't have an open link to the show. You know what I mean? If I didn't think you were great. But yeah, you are great. But anyway, so yeah, we got Bam Rodriguez tomorrow night. We're gonna talk more in depth about that after um SmackDown. What the fuck happened to my thing? I'm gonna run and get my laptop. All right. Let me see. Of course. Yo, what y'all think? So Ruka, how do y'all think she been doing? I think she's definitely come back better, right, from her initial debut. Um, let her have what the fuck? Oh shit. That was crazy. She hit that soul snatcher on Jade. Oh, and Lyra pulls her out. Yeah. Uh-oh, Charlotte's got Lyra in the figure eight. Damn, Chelsea's over, bro. Yo, you are not gonna hear nobody saying nothing about her. I would say it would be way more interesting for the storyline if Jey Uso were to win. But damn, dude, they've just ruined this man's fucking entire arc, dude. Entire arc. Shout out to Alex. Hey, hope you had a nice week personally, man. Appreciate you, Alex. I actually did. Went to the doctors, found out that my kidney percentage is up, so that's good. Um I I think he said 31 pounds I've lost since I weighed in. It was like December 2024, I think it was. Something like that. But it was like 8 pounds from the last time I went, which was a month ago because I had to go for a work thing. And then yeah, and then I shot a 92 last night. Well, actually, no, I shot a 92 on Sunday. I shot a 41 on a 42 on yesterday golf. That being said, these days it's not hard to be the best co-host over there. Yeah, I'll be honest. TBV has a lot of people that really don't know shit. I watched the other day, dude, because I watched this clip of Ness and Bill Haney. I'm sure y'all probably saw it, right? It made the tractions and stuff. And I saw this clip, and Ness is like, oh, I'm gonna hold your feet to the fire type shit, like on Bill, like, oh, do you want to fight this man or this man? It's like, bro, you've been doing this for how long? We both know it how it works. Like we've had conversations, right? Like I would never pretend to be an insider in boxing. I'm not an insider. I don't have sources anymore. Most of the people that I used to have that I would call sources don't work for Golden Boy and or the entities. My strongest era of as a journalist, as far as sources are concerned, was like when Leha Bata was like heavily involved in Golden Boy and then PBC stuff. But yeah, that all kind of died. But I could tell you that it wasn't a situation where um it got bad like that. Not at all. There were a lot of good people, actually, a lot of really good people, and some of those people still working. Uh, Vic had worked for boxing scene for years. What's his name? I asked him to do my show. He hasn't hit me back yet. What was his name? Ron G. Shout out to Elon Musk. Let the haters cry. What happened to Elon Musk? Or are you talking about the big giant Grok makes AI child porn thing? I saw that. I mean, it's not really wrong, but I mean, who's the really people with numbers in their name? Yeah, I guess that's very true. Claymore is good, but too logical for that audience. This dead air is great. Haha. This dead air brought to you by Pepsides. Hilarious. Dana White or Eddie promoting Joshua versus Fury. Who is lying or both telling truth? I like Alex. I like Alex in the way he asks these questions. He's very smart. Yeah, they're both lying. It's not that they're lying. Look, here's the truth, right? Whoever has the money is really like the one promoting the fight. The promoter of the fight, I think, as it relates to this era of boxing, is like the guy who has to get paid at the end, right? Like Turkey isn't, I don't think he's making any money on this shit. Like, not specifically Joshua Fury. I just mean like in this whole boxing endeavor, like as a whole, right? Um, And you could look at Live Golf and how they operated with that and the kind of things that we saw them doing right before we found out, look, they fucking don't give a shit about it anymore. Like, it's a loss to them at this point. They know it. Um you could look at that and you could say maybe there's some correlation. But then at the same time, you can't say that causation is correlation or correlation is causation, right? You can't make that argument. Who's going to um promote this fight? Uh Eddie's already done it. And Frank's already done it, right? It's like, I'm sorry, but I just think that Dana White is a little it's just hard to be Dana White in these situations. Like, you seem listen, he's one grade A yapper, right? Super gay as hell. Grade A yapper, Dana is for sure. However, he also is just kind of like a line promoter, like the rest of them. Like, there's nothing redeemable about him in the same way there's nothing redeemable about, you know, Eddie or Bob, or when it comes to like being promoters in the sport, right? They're like lawyers, you know what I mean? They're ambulance chasers. Like, I'm sorry, that's how they make their money. It's like with other people's fucking effort. But look, I'm not saying that they're not necessary. All I'm saying is that this fight's been promoted. This fight is packaged and ready to go out the oven, right? Let me tell you what's not ready. Bam and Inoue. Everybody wants Bam and Inoue, right? We all want to see that fight, but that fight's not ready. Not even close to ready. Not as it relates to the money that needs to be invested. Yo, Blake Monroe's going to have a million more cameo things. I mean, video vignettes before anything happens at all. So the point I'm trying to make is that, hold on. That don't work. That storyline's terrible. If it's Netflix, it's Dana. Elon became the first ever trillionaire today. I forgot SpaceX open. I forgot. That's why they were protesting, right? Net worth 1 trillion. SpaceX IPO opened at a record $2 trillion in the stock market. Yeah. Um, yeah. I have my worries about SpaceX, I'll be honest. Um, there's nobody who believes in the idea of having to venture out into space in order for our civilization to survive, which I think should be the ultimate goal, right? And I don't I don't know anything about physics or jet propulsion or any of that. Here's what I do know. All the experts say they've been unable to even scratch the surface of those test flights where they were trying to get to, I guess it's a certain part of the atmosphere before they have to release the rocket or whatever, or before it can like launch and come back. I don't know the specifics, but anyway, yeah, I just have my worries. And I'm not talking shit, but it's like, I don't really care like what helps Elon necessarily, right? I don't necessarily think like Elon doing financially better is an automatic like, it's definitely a win for SpaceX, but it's not like, oh well, now we're headed towards like great waters, right? Um, I think I could argue that a lot of this felt like a bit of a distraction from the actual things that have been going on in South Texas. I've been wanting to go out there and look at it a bunch. Dana's at least systematic in his ways, while traditional promoters like Eddie rely on chaos to have the occasional profitable fight. Well, okay, so Dana and the UFC have also done that too, Alex, right? Like, I mean, I would say the most controversial and the most like chaos matchup of the year in all of combat sports has been the Strickland win, right? I mean, there's nothing more, I think, controversial. Like, I don't think you can point to anything more controversial than that. And Dana absolutely profits off of that facet of it. You know what I mean? So it's like, I can't hold anyone. I don't think, like, I could never make the argument that Dana is justifiably better or like more morally like superior to any of these guys. I think that we have enough evidence to see that they're all the same kind of opportunistic pieces of shit. And I mean that from strictly a boxing fan standpoint. I'm not saying they like don't take care of their kids or like kick dogs. I'm just saying that it's clear they're not invested in what's best for the sport as it relates to the fight fan. What's clear to me is that they're invested in the sport as far as it relates to like how much more money can we make. So then it's like this SpaceX thing. What does it end up becoming? Does it end up becoming an IPO that ultimately you can hide behind press conferences and quarter one or quarter four calls, whatever? Like, I don't know. I hope not, because I really want it to just be a legit company that tries to do really legit work. And my fear is that when you are as polarizing as an Elon Musk and identify it politically in the way that he does, it can turn off the most promising young STEM graduates and things like that. You know, it's just like they don't want to deal with it at all, maybe, or they're just like liberal, which, you know, seems to be like a lot of STEM people's, you know, political whatever. But I don't know. I don't see Dana as like anything that these other promoters aren't, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like you use the Conor McGregor stuff too with Khabib, right? I mean, we can keep going down the lines. Chael Sonnen and Anderson Silva, like that entire rematch was based off of, you know, false narratives and crazy storylines. But I will say that as it relates to Eddie, I again listen, here's what I'm going to say. I think Dana's in a position where he's likely to be the guy that they put on the card as the promoter or whatever, or they're going to give him enough concessions for him to be able to like go out and do an interview with Newsmax or some weirdo place that nobody gives a shit when it comes to combat sports. And he can go and he can say he's a promoter. The truth is this fight has already been promoted. Like I said, Eddie's already promoted this fight. This fight is as big as it will get, right? Can they like finesse a really good promotion to increase the buyership by a couple points? Maybe, maybe not. But if I'm going by my experience and what I've been seeing over the last couple of years, no, they can't. They won't, right? This fight is as big as it's going to get. It was as big as it was going to get a few years ago, and now it started to trend back down. Now, I think there is an uptick just based on the fact that they're supposedly going to fight, but ultimately, like this fight has been promoted. You know, who's the promoter? Eddie Hearn is the promoter of this fight. He is the promoter of this fight because he has promoted this fight to where it is, both the good and the bad. You could argue that moves that he made and decisions that Eddie made with AJ, you know, got us to the point where we've waited this long for a fight that's deteriorated to a degree in front of casual fans, specifically those outside of the UK. You can make all those arguments and that's fine. But at the end of the day, it is Eddie that is responsible for the good and the bad. You want to see Tyson Fury and AJ because of the fighters that they are and what we've seen. But understand that the fighters that they are based on their promoters' narratives. You see AJ, and I'm not talking to Alex, I'm saying in general. We see AJ the way that Eddie has partly wanted us to see him, right? How could we not? None of us know AJ personally. None of us can tell what is real and what isn't. But when you have somebody that controls that narrative, you can assign somebody the like the not the reward, but what is it? Like he did it, right? He did it. He got this fight out of the oven and now it's smoking, ready to cook. You know, maybe they can up some buys, maybe they can't. Jordan hit 2 homers in the first, including a grand slam. It's 9-0 already. I fucking hate Jordan, dude. I hate him. Listen to me, my fantasy baseball team, I had Jordan for 5 years, traded Two of my best players that year. It was like Austin Meadows, which he didn't end up having a great year. And I think Jacob deGrom, which was a crazy trade for Jordan, I realized. But Jordan was super young. He'd already had, I think, a 28 or 30 home run season when he had just gotten called up the year before. Traded, made him my franchise, meaning I could have him for upwards to from 3 to 6 years. I could have him. Literally last year was the final year that I've had Jordan. And you want me to tell you what that ride was like? It was like this. Fucking crazy. 6 RBIs in 1 inning. Dude, have y'all seen the Athletics where they're playing? So everybody knows that Colorado is like the premier baseball like hitting place. That's where you want to go if you're a hitter, because the altitude is adjusted to the point where the balls fly out of the park. And the data is there. You could see more people hit home runs in Colorado at their field than anywhere else. Their home road splits are fucking nuts, right? The vast majority of hitters have far more home runs at their home field than they do the visitors' field, right? But if you look at people in the NL West, you'll see that all those teams that play Colorado have far more home runs. So it's pretty crazy. Mario, what's your take on Trump cameras? On Trump's camera appearance on Sunday? The over-under is set at 7.5. Mario, what's your take on Trump camera appearances on Sunday? The over-under is 7.5. Okay, 7.5. Does that include the first one? Because I feel like that's fucking crazy. Like, it's got to be over 7.5 if you're including his like coming in, right? Because they're gonna show him. I mean, I guess it also like, are we talking live also? Because like I can imagine a presidential arrival probably happens, maybe, right? I would go way over. I mean, not way over, but I would say over if those parameters were set. Are we establishing non-live video replays or callback or whatever, like something like that? Then if that's the case, then yes, way over. If it's just live shots and that's it, that might just be the number it hits, maybe 6-7. Damn it, 6-7. If we could just get some fucking defense, I know, and some pitching to stay healthy. By the way, Mario, my team finished third for the second straight year, 1 game away. I feel like the fucking Cowboys right now. Champ. What I mean is Dana has a system in having intriguing fights consistently at least once a month, while others in boxing marinate everything until the major event every 6 months. Yeah, that's a true point. That's a factually accurate point. But it fails to give the context, right? Because the context is that Dana has the ability to have a system in place in which he can control like the most exciting fights and have them right away and not have people say dumb shit like, oh, he's on the other side of the street. And boxing can't operate that way, right? Because it's split up. It's not a monopoly. In fact, you could make an argument over who's been the top promoter year in, year out for the last, I think, decade, right? Now, I mean, you can't argue who is the premier promoter. It's Top Rank. They've been around the longest. They operate more like a traditional sports franchise than some of these other companies and stuff, specifically Golden Boy. But you can't argue that that's by choice, right? Either side. You can't argue that Eddie's doing, or like Eddie and Golden Boy and Top Rank, like it's not their choice to do it in a way that's different from the UFC. That said, the UFC doesn't have the choice to do it any other way than the way the UFC does it. And by that, I mean this. I think it is problematic. I've always thought it was problematic for the UFC to control their own rankings, to control who gets title shots. And I can tell you that over the last several years, I've seen bigger holes than ever before. I don't understand some of the times why certain fights are made. It seems like there's been an inkling to get more American fighters over just a little bit with the matchups and the way they're placed. It also feels like it's being the booking's very torch passing, right? It's like you can see who the UFC sets up to win certain fights and things like that, right? I think Sean O'Malley is probably a pretty good, example of that. So it's like, you're right in that the UFC has a system in place where fighters are guaranteed fights, and in that you can proceed up and down the fight card, knowing you're going to get a fight in your time and not in the time of boxing that over marinates. Absolutely correct. That's also an argument that I could make to say why UFC is handicaps their fighters, and from a financial situation, why it's so much more lucrative to be a boxer, right? You could argue more people get paid under the UFC umbrella in a way that more resembles the fight game, but I could argue that they all get ripped off at the very beginning anyway. I could argue that they're so underpaid at the very beginning of their career that even when they make more money, like, this is the whole problem that's going on with Eddie and Aspinall, right? Eddie knows the fight game. Eddie knows what kind of money's been made on those Aspinall fights. So he says, well, I don't know, champ, we ain't gonna do this. Like, all I know is if Aspinall understands the numbers and he thinks that he's getting ripped off, then it's the same thing as Ngannou. Like, these men are free to do what they want, right? Am I saying it's a good business decision? No, not even remotely close. Am I saying it's a bad decision? No, not even remotely close. I don't want to have an opinion on it because I don't know anything about it. I've never been a UFC fighter. I've never fought inside the UFC and outside to understand how the pay goes. All I know is I've watched documentaries, I've read books, I've read stories on the fighters that have sued UFC and are recently now suing UFC. And 3 to show up and 3 to win, just that ain't a lot of money at the very beginning. That's all I'm saying. Um, what That's what makes them, Mario. If you have a major fight, they lose their luster. It's not special when it's always happening. That's why they need Connor back. That's a fair point, Max, but that's not a point I want to make. And I don't think that's a point you want to make, because essentially what you're arguing there is you're saying that, hey, UFC is so dumb that they give us the best fights that we want to see, like, right away. And now the truth is they don't do that all the time, but they have a record that far exceeds that of boxing over the last few decades. That argument makes it sound like you're saying, like, oh, they don't know how to manipulate the money out of fans the way that boxing does, right? Like, we were talking about Inoue, right? Which I don't even think I finished my point there. So, like, this is why Alex is right, because right now Inoue and Bam seems like a fight that's makeable, right? It seems like the money's there for that fight for the first time ever in the history of us wanting to see that fight. And it seems like Turkey's interested. It seems like all the right people are down to make it happen. Down to clown, I think, right? Sandals or no sandals. Maybe he going sockless with the sandals. Who knows? But he's partying with that fight. He loves it. But that fight's not ready. When within the context of being a financial success at the level for which their skill set demands or desires, right? They are the epitome of the top of not just boxing, but potentially combat sports. And yet, what would they get paid if they fought here in the States? Probably not a lot, right? Or not compared to their place in the zeitgeist of combat sports. Now, if Bam beats the brother, Inoue, and you can create a narrative, marinating works out for everyone in terms of the casual fan gets their reason to watch beyond the fact that, people like Nestor Gibbs has shit on the fucking little guys for years, and I had to fucking own him in every debate we ever did. But at the end of the day, all I know is that those fights don't happen without a narrative, without a build, right? You could very much argue that getting those fights leaves no room for a build. Um, I don't know. I don't know if that's right or not. I don't know. Dana having Tom Loeffler in the Sean Shelby role is a very good resource. Absolutely. I think Tom Loeffler is very smart. I think he understands this iteration of the fight game in a way that Dana doesn't, and not a lot of other people do in boxing, by the way. Like, when I came up in boxing, when I first started working, man, there were so many people willing to talk to you, right? Duncan's had a person to talk to, right? Debella, Lou, what was his name? The guy that Ward sued to get out of his contract. His brother's a trainer. Oh my god, why am I forgetting his name? Fuck. Anyway, yeah, so it's like there were a lot of people. Really, there were a shit ton of people watching. Um, and then what ended up happening was, um, yo, what the fuck, dude? That's a little kid in the ring refereeing, dude. Holy shit, dude, what is going on? That's a child with. Oh man, that referee looks like every one of my nerdy cousins that we used to pick on. I'm not even trying to be a hater at all. I feel like if the girls get a little too no, I'm not gonna say that. Not gonna say it. Another site has it 6'5". Yeah, that sounds fair. Again, I need the parameters. They deemed camera appearances as any segment where Trump is intentionally shown to the crowd and seen in his face. So not so it could be live or anything. Oh yeah, it's way over 7.5, way over. And now we give up 3 right the fuck back already. Jesus. What I'm saying, every good fight isn't a major fight, and the fact that is these sports are businesses, and you said it yourself. Bam Inoue isn't ready. Absolutely, it's not ready from that perspective. Is it ready though, Mex? And this isn't me telling you anything. This is me asking you, literally. I've not even thought about this. I'm asking you for your side of this. Is Bam Inoue ready under the context that it decides who the best of the little guys is? Like, is it ready in the sense that we know who Inoue is and we know who Bam is? Or are you saying that the fight isn't ready on under the parameters we've just spoken about financially, right? It's not a big enough fight yet. Uh, and it's also not a fair fight, but it's also not a smart fight in the sense that Inoue is that guy and has earned the right to fight under the idea or under the premise that he's fighting to be the best or whatever. Has Bam done that? Has Bam done enough to show that he's also simultaneously in that place? And so a fight right now exists as a fight between the two very best, right? What we wanted from Anderson Silva and GSP back in the day, what we wanted from, um, you know, I guess what we hoped Crawford and Canelo would have been. Bam Inoue gonna happen as soon as Bam started talking about fighting his brother. I knew the setup was on. Matt, I think you even said that on this show, if I'm not mistaken. I believe you did. Um, hey, shout out Michael Tapia, champ. Appreciate you in the chat, champ, on IG. This is my friend. I graduated with him. We actually went to middle school together, high school together. uh we had a few classes together, and I found out I haven't seen him obviously in 20 years. Oh Jesus Christ, I said that. What the fuck, dude? The little guy referee's getting mad, dude. He's pissed at everybody right now. Oh man, he's mad at everybody. All right, that's not what I wanted, but that's okay. If this was UFC, they'd be fighting in October for less money. Now, to Alex's point, though, look at this mess with Devin and Shakur. That fight is ready to go right now for huge money. So there is that as well, but the fight will mean something. Dan Goosen, thank you so much. Okay, so let's just attack this real quick. Okay. Again, I know we're doing the recap, but I just want to get into this real quick. Devin Shakur isn't ready. It's ready in the sense that you mean it, which is the sense that I asked about Inoue and Bam, and that's the question you were responding, or that's the idea you were responding to. So you're correct. You're not wrong. But when I say that fight's not ready, it isn't ready to be fought under the parameters that it's currently being assessed at. Okay. So right now, the parameters of this fight are that one of the best junior welterweights is going to fight one of the best welterweights. And the fact that you're having that fight means that this fight is so lucrative that it's able to be fought in a catch weight, right? And it makes perfect sense. And that's not the case. That's not where we are, right? If it is where we were, then we'd be getting the fight. But the fact that Shakur thinks he's worth more money to have to move to a specific weight tells us that that fight's not ready. The fact that Haney can't get enough money to go all the way down, which obviously, I mean, how much money would that be? That would be probably a crazy amount of money. The fact that he can't do that means that this fight is not ready. That's what it means. I don't know what he meant there. A 9th run inning just to give up 5 right the fuck back. Damn. For me, it's not ready, but that's because I want my big nights to mean something and not just this month's big fight and we never think about it again. Fair point. Fair point. Everybody was talking about how big, fucking Porter and Crawford was for all this time. And now nobody gives Crawford any respect or credit for beating Porter the way that he did, despite the fact that very few people were able to do anything remotely similar. Like if the UFC delivered Aspinall versus Jones, that's a big night that will be memorable. It won't be a Strickland versus some Russian. While it was good, nobody will remember. Fair point. For the as big a night as it was for Sean Strickland when he won, was it as equally a successful night for the UFC? I think you could argue no. I think you could argue that Sean Strickland not being allowed to go to the UFC White House fight as the middleweight American champion, that is absolutely the most based motherfucker you could have on that side, right? The fact that you've separated that, it shows the hole in the whole movement, right? Like Strickland's not MAGA. That's clear. Yeah, he supported Trump, but now that Trump's had enough time to show the actual agenda, people split, right? This is what MAGA and Trump had going for him. He had going for him the idea that he tricked everybody into believing that being a Republican or a conservative means this one thing. That's fucking not even close to being true. In fact, the vast majority of people that I've known over the years that identify as MAGA weren't even close to being Republicans, weren't even close to understanding conservative policy, let alone agreeing with it, right? It's always the big talking points, right? Trans people, abortions. And it's the same talking points that these people have given you for years. The idea that there are actually principled conservatives or principled Republicans is not a myth at all, right? You look at a guy like Bryce Mitchell, right? I think Bryce Mitchell's probably not the most brightest bulb in the UFC. I'm not making fun of him at all. I'm just saying I wouldn't listen to him for shit. That said, though, he clearly is a smart guy. He clearly has something to offer towards the conversation. I don't know if it's like, here's the thing. I don't think he's dumb. I just don't think he's smart enough to accurately express the very complicated ideas that he has. I think it takes a lot of skill to stay on messaging, and he doesn't have that. I don't think he has that. And I'm not making fun of him. All I'm saying is there's a guy in Bryce Mitchell who's been one of the most hardcore Trump MAGA guys, and look at that. Me and him have some similarities in the way we think. But when you just become a cult member and you're just like, oh, anything he does, like at this point, if you haven't seen that you can pivot from anything as a Republican and conservative under that movement because you just got to follow whatever Trump is saying, that's the fucking blueprint right there. And so, I just think that Mex is right to a degree here, because what we remember most from the UFC are events that we can have guys back and like come together and like talk about it, right? Like when you see like Chuck Liddell and like, I don't know who, fucking Rampage, be able to get together and sit down and talk the shit out, you know what I mean? And like chop up old fights or whatever, like on the podcast, whatever. Like, that's awesome. You think Strickland's gonna be able to do that like with anybody? Like, probably not. And it sucks that you can't parade your new middleweight champion that fought like an underdog, and nobody's talking about the fight because the fight wasn't that great. So it's like, I don't know. We can remember the Floyd Canelo, Floyd Pac, Canelo Triple G 1-2 De La Hoya Vargas. Yep, we sure do. Liv Morgan versus Charlotte Flair is an instant classic semifinal. Yeah, for sure. Oh shit. What the fuck? The Los Garzas are still in the company? What are we thinking here, guys? Are we thinking the return of Baron Corbin? Did he just did the Miz's heart just go out to all of us? Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Oh, his pants had a firework. I don't hate it. I actually don't hate it. Hold on, guys. I got to do this stupid shit again. Or you know what? Hold up. What are you doing in here? Ah, ah. Yo, by the way, I don't know if y'all caught this. There's this show on Apple TV. I forget what it's called. Margot Needs Money or something like that. Her dad in the show is played by, Ron Swanson from Parks and Rec. He's played by that guy, right? And in the show, he's a wrestler, like an old wrestler, like a vet. He's been in WWE and he came from AEW, and then he wrestles in AEW in the show. And it's really cool. There's this moment, I think it's the second or third episode, where the dad moves in with her and he's like watching the show, and he's like, he says something about WWE and AEW. He's like, yeah, I mean, obviously there's the big leagues, but this right here is the real deal. Or he says something like that, right? He puts over AEW, which I found to be weird. The last real good guy. I feel like Sammy's the only one that doesn't think he's a heel now. Ride or die with the last real good guy. I like that. That's actually goes pretty hard. I'm not gonna lie. Cody Rhodes. Will he even entertain this nonsense? Oh yeah, here he comes. Like, I don't even think WWE knows what they're doing with him anymore. Did y'all see the story this week that dropped about CM Punk having a shit ton of heat in the back, or like people not wanting to deal with him? So the rumor is, and it was started by what's his name? Fuck, I forgot the guy's name. He's like a long time uh breaker. God damn it. Start the show. Booty booty boom. Fucking whoa whoa. Hey guys, just a heads up, we are going to be live after the show. I'm going to get on Twitch and probably YouTube again, just to do some tests. But if the tests go well, then I'll stay on and run a couple hours or something. I'll stay up a little late. But just so y'all know, we will be live tomorrow for of course. Yeah, we'll be live for the BAM fight tomorrow, as well as the wait, Spurs play tomorrow, right? What time do they play? Spurs game time. Oh, 7:30. Yeah, so we'll be live for that. When does BAM come out? BAM. Okay, Vargas. BAM scheduled 9:35 Eastern with a walkout time. The main event ring walks will take place at 8:35 Central. So, wait, what? The event starts. Oh, it starts at 8:30. Start time for the event at 6. Okay, that makes more sense. Ring time walkouts at 8:35. Okay, so we'll be good. So we're going to be live streaming for both tomorrow, just so y'all know. I disagree. B. Shakur shot himself in the foot because he was talking going to 154 for a smaller payday versus Connor Ben. Yeah, but what does that mean? I mean, he shot himself in the foot by capping the way everybody else does. That wasn't real, clearly, right? He wasn't actually going to do that. And if he was, he found out real quick that there was no money in it, right? Zero money in it. And so at the end of the day, I don't know how you can hold him to this idea that he would fight a lesser fighter in Conor Ben, but not a greater fighter in Devin Haney, right? It's just, I don't know. It just feels logical to me, right? This feels like picking and choosing, like not having the same energy because somebody's your favorite fighter. And I'm not accusing you, Mex, of that. I'm just saying in general, this narrative bothers me that, oh, okay, so Shakur said he'd go up to 154, right, to fight Conor Ben. He didn't say he was going to do it for prestige. He didn't say that that would make him the number one pound for pound guy. What he said in that moment, in reality, was if the bag is big enough, that guy sucks enough that I could go up enough and not have to worry about any disadvantage. Again, because he sucks enough that my skills are better, even giving him that major advantage. This is your right testament to Devin Haney, right? Shakur put himself in a position, you're right, of basically giving positive feedback to Devin Haney and admit that that's a fight worth worrying about. But the problem is he's already admitted that. The problem is he said that on Sway like 6, 7, 8 years ago, right? Before I even came back to the Boxing Voice, he said that's a fight for the future. That's going to be a big time fight one day, and he was right. It is going to be a big time fight, right? Is it that big fight that they wanted, that they thought it was going to be that type of Mayweather Pacquiao shit? No, it's not. Could it get there? Probably not. Maybe, but probably not. So it's like, ultimately, what do we say here? Oh, Conor Benn isn't as good as Devin Haney. That's all we're saying. We're not saying, oh, you were willing to risk the weight to fight a Conor Benn who's just as dangerous at 144, 147 as Devin Haney. Like, I don't even know how we could make that argument, right? All I know is that he said what every fighter basically says. I see a guy way up there that is low hanging fruit, and I will pick his ass off for the right amount. The right amount wasn't there, so the money's not there, so it wasn't worth it for him, right? The same thing is true with Devin Haney. Now, I agree again. Shakur put himself in a position where he could be criticized by his fans. I mean, yeah, by Devin's fans and his own fans and by boxing as as a whole. But we can't forget two things. One, the A side of that fight would be the one to guarantee who moves up closer to what weight, right? And I don't know if any of those guys are the guaranteed A side to each other yet. What I do know is they haven't even proven if they're the best in their divisions yet, right? It's not that this fight isn't ready in terms of being able to make a ton of money or that the money isn't there. That's not the case, but it certainly isn't ready in the sense of it validating the best fighter in the world at a specific weight class, right? If he beats Haney, what does that mean? Does that mean he's the best at junior welterweight, or does that mean he's the best at welterweight? And what does it even mean for Haney to win, right? Like, all I know is that fighting at 144 is Haney's way of taking an advantage, right, of a 140 guy, getting him to come up, right? While at the same time, Shakur is trying to take advantage of the fact that Haney doesn't have all the options in the world, right? He can't dictate who Lomachenko fights or Conor Benn fights or any of these other guys. What is going on here? Go to the UFC YouTube channel right now. It's sick. All right, let's go. No, that is that ISO Speed? Who the fuck? Oh, that's not ISO Speed. Damn, nope. That's not him at all. Who the fuck is this guy? Who is that guy? Does anybody know who that guy is? Yo, this is crazy. Oh, Diego Lopes coming out. Holy shit. Is that his daughter? This is probably oh, I'm not y'all aren't seeing it. My bad. This is probably my favorite fight on the card. Uh Stylistically speaking, I think that it's a very, very good matchup. Um I think you could make an argument that the Prev fight could be boring, or at least very quick. Now it could just be an exciting ass knockout, but I think that this fight with Lopez is a fight that is still the show. What's Kenny doing with Cody? Oh, he's
And if you're watching at home, all the
apologizing.
fighters tonight will be walking with kids from the local community here in D.C. Kyle Dawkins walking out right now with Emerson Vasquez from the Midtown Youth Academy.
What? Are these kids that the Epstein class kidnapped? What the fuck is going on? Oh, damn, I shouldn't have said that. Yo, what the fuck? You just brought a bunch of random kids from the neighborhood? That's what you said? Yo, this is why I didn't want this, right? This is why I didn't want this. Why are we pretending right now? But I'm not gonna lie, this looks fucking crazy dope. The stairs coming down. Is it right? Is it wrong? Why are you even asking me? Bo Nickel. Here's the thing. If you think of my voice as prominent enough to have that question asked and my answer matter, thank you, dude. That's very nice of you. But I can assure you it doesn't. I don't know if it's right or wrong. All I know is the things I know, right? The government should be uninvolved with things. That said, I'm an MMA fan, and I'm from the era where you could unlock backgrounds in wrestling and MMA and boxing video games to be like fighting in like the blood sports. What the hell is crying? This is embarrassing.
Here is the Show Me State Zone Iron Michael Chandler.
I think like, not right now though. Tony Stark versus Ruffy. That's hilarious. W for them. Bro, who are the fucking mods? Yo, that's crazy that they are letting all these people on.
From Sao Paulo, Brazil. Here is
Sao Paulo, Brazil. UFC Epstein 215. That's so fucked up. Uh-oh, wait. All I know is Devin got told 144 and he said yes. Yeah, I think it's easier for a guy that's barely been at 147 to shave off a few pounds than it is for a guy in Shakur that's never fought above a specific weight class ever to know how his body would respond to that 144. Like if you want to make the argument that, oh, Devin's way more down to fight because he said yes to 144, maybe that's true. But I could tell you that Ryan Garcia didn't necessarily make the best decision by agreeing to his weight stip. So if we could have a DeLorean, right, and we could watch that fight take place and then Shakur lose at 144 and then me get in the DeLorean, take you to another universe where they fight at 140 or 147, then we could say what's a wrong choice and what's a right choice. All I know is that in boxing, a fighter is better off being overprotective than underprotective to a situation, right? And there's plenty of data points to reference, right? One data point that just sticks out in my head right now, just thought about this, is that they reference it in the movie The Fighter, right? The one that's about Ward, right? And in that movie, for which Christian Bale plays his brother, and Mark Wahlberg plays oh shit, he just told Solo he's coming for him. Where Ward tells him so and then he plays Ward, does what's his name? So in the movie, this is the very beginning. They're having an ESPN Friday Night Fights, or it might be a Tuesday Night Fights, and Ward is scheduled to fight somebody, right? But that guy pulls out, and they get somebody who's supposedly off the couch, right? I can't remember who the fighter is. I should have looked it up. But they get this guy off the couch. He comes in. All the word on this guy is he's off the couch. He hasn't been fighting. He's lazy. He's got a beer belly, blah, blah. Shows up on the night of the fight. And they were like, yeah, dude, he's like 10, 15 pounds, 20 pounds over the limit, right? Like you're gonna fight him at a catch weight because he's so fat. They show up, nah, he's 15, 20 pounds over, but it's like 80% muscle gain. Like he is huge. And in the fight itself, like the camera, you could see it clear as day, how that worked out. He's like much bigger and caught him by surprise, right? So is Ward that night being down? Thank you so much, my love. You're just the best wife in the world. I love you so much. And she didn't say a word when I said that, so you know what? Fuck her right back. No, I'm just kidding. Hold on. Hold on, guys. Let me just finish this thing real quick. Um, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing wrong. Oh well. Anyway, I forgot what we were talking about. Oh yeah. So Devin Haney. I just think that you look at the fight itself, and if I were in the Shakur camp, or if I made bread off of how well Shakur's career goes, I'd be arguing for him not to take the fight. Not because I don't know he wins that fight at 144, and not because I think that he would be disproportionately whatever, you know what I'm trying to say. But it would be because we don't know. That's such a crazy to me variable that casual fans hang on to all the time, right? You don't know what Shakur is gonna do at 144, right? Like you don't know. And you don't know how the body's going to respond. That's why I've always been an advocate for guys moving up to get acclimation fights, right? Due to bad weather, the UFC fight press conference has been delayed. Oh, that was earlier. And so like not knowing that, like how could you ever send your fighter out to a situation where you can't control or don't understand the element at play, right? Like imagine you're a quarterback, right? Like imagine you're a quarterback. Like imagine you're like I'm trying to think of like a young quarterback. Dart. Imagine your Dart's father, right? Imagine your Dart's father, and you know that his game wild card to get into the playoff, to the next round of the playoffs, is going to be played in the snow against Green Bay. And as the father or his manager or his agent, you could step in and say, you know what? We don't want to fight in this. We don't want him to play in the snow. We don't know what that's going to do. He hasn't really played in the snow. We don't know what that's like. And you have the ability to say, you know what? We're not going to play this Sunday. Go ahead and make the game for next Sunday or 2 Sundays from now. Like imagine you had that power to say, we're going to take that element of unknown away from our fighter, out of our fighters, what's in front of him. Like imagine that for just a second. You'll be like, nah, he ain't gonna fight. Or your boy. Shout out to your boy, by the way. Shout out to Mex's son who finished first place in his race today. Champ already getting to the athletics and gonna dominate, I'm sure. But the point I'm making is like imagine like they said, all right, Mex, your son is going to run this race that's been ran for every year for 50 years. But on this one, for the first time, we're going to actually make them carry a wheelbarrow, like drag it. And you're like, wait, that's not the race. We haven't been practicing for that. And you're like, yeah, no, we're going to mix it up today. Like, then you could say, nah, I don't want him to race in it, right? Like, I want to protect his, the sanctity of his athleticism and his career in athletics when I can. And these unknown factors are part of that, right? I don't think it's a duck to have a fighter try to force to move you up. I think Devin Haney thought he was a big enough A side to be able to dictate more of the opportunities, but or not opportunities, more of the advantages and disadvantages that can be taken advantage of, I guess, in A side sort of negotiations. The Dev Shakur fight is ripe and ready right now. If that was true, then it'd be fought at a single weight class, right? It would be fought at a single weight class if that was the case. But unfortunately, that's not the case. The unfortunate part about this is that Shakur is just behind Devin, and that's been the case from their beginning of their career, right? You go back to 2019, you go back to 2018, 17, and you look at these guys. Shakur's just been behind Devin's career, and it's all based on timing, really. You know what I mean? It's all based on where were they at these points in their career. But I don't know. To say that it's ripe and ready, doesn't feel true. It doesn't feel true because nobody's asking for a catch weight. I don't want to know who the best catch weight. It's like when Manny Pacquiao came up to welterweight, and people wanted him to actually fight at welterweight, but he kept making these guys fight stipulation, contract weights. And I'm sorry, but the boxing that I know is fought in weight classes, right? And when guys in two weight classes fight each other, it's typically because these two guys have proven themselves to be the very best in their division, right? We're going to see Patano fight, right? We're going to see I know, right? Did they? Oh, hell yeah, goal for the US. Nice. Thank you. Appreciate you. We're going to see Pereira tomorrow, right? And that fight's right. That fight's been right? Because that man has already proven himself at middleweight. He's proven himself at light heavyweight. Now I wouldn't have him on the level of John Jones or Mighty Mouse or GSP, despite the fact that he could become the 3-time guy. But at the same time, he's been exposed, so we can't forget about that. But all I'm saying is that fight is ready because we know who the best at light heavyweight is, and we're certain that the best at heavyweight is between these couple guys, right? So it's not the fight we want, but it is ready, right? It is ready to see. We are ready now to see, just like we were ready, I think, to see GSP and Anderson Silva fight that we all wanted and we didn't get. Conor Ben is good filler for either fighter. Sure is. Definitely, I would take it. But only one of them can fight. Again, shout out to Max's son, who looks just like him, by the way. The whole event is going to be crazy to look at. It really is. And the crowd goes mild. Hilarious. Floyd never fought at welter or 154 till he did it. Sure, absolutely. And he didn't even do it until he did it. At the end of the day, you're going to compare him fighting guys like Castillo, and you know what I mean? That's crazy. You're talking about Devin Haney, who could potentially be top 3 pound for pound best fighters. Shakur could be potentially top 3 pound for pound fighters. Who does that advantage go to? Because the idea of saying that fighting at 144 is somehow even Steven, right? That's ridiculous. That is a ridiculous notion. The truth is, we can't know for sure who is going to suffer more. Shakur and the lack of size and power that he may have moving up to a division that Devin's already comfortably fought at, or Devin having to drop a few pounds from the 147. Will he have his legs on him? Will he dehydrate himself? All these things are questions. All these things can only be answered if they fought. But I don't want to know who the best catchweight fighter is. Do you? Max, is this fight ready for you because you think that Devin Haney solidified himself as the best welterweight in the world? And simultaneously, do you believe that Shakur solidified himself as the greatest junior welterweight in the world? If your answer is yes to both, well, then I understand why you want to see the fight right now and why you think that it is ready to go. I don't think that would be your answer. In fact, I think both of us would say that they still have work to do to be called the very best at both of those divisions, specifically Devin Haney. And so when I ask myself, are we ready to see a junior welterweight and a welterweight fight each other at a catch weight that answers nothing? Then no, I'm not ready. It feels like a bunch of people want to see the fight already. So do I, but it goes against the entire notion of what boxing has always represented. We don't have guys that are comfortably fighting in their weight class all of a sudden just meet in the middle because we want to see it, right? Triple G didn't fight Kell Brook because it was the best welterweight versus the best middleweight. They fought because literally he had no other opportunities. He had no one else to fight. Kell Brook was iced out of the top welterweight discussion, right? Thus the top welterweight money. And so what did he end up doing? He ended up fucking his career up probably, right? For it all. Because I don't think Kell Brook was ever really the same after that. And so I don't know. Manny never fought at 147 until he came up and whipped Oscar's ass. And again, that wasn't 147, right? That was a catch weight as well. And we're talking about an old Oscar. Like all these things are comparative, contextual, or from a context standpoint, right? Because every single person you give me in this list is going to have an asterisk, right? Because you're not worried about Oscar in 2008 or 9 or whenever they fought. Like you're not worried about that Oscar, right? You're worried about the Oscar from, like 97 to like 2003 or whatever the fuck, right? You're worried about that Oscar. And that's not the Oscar you're getting on fight night. But Devin, on the other hand, is in his prime and could be the best version of himself right now. Shakur, possibly the same can be said by them. So you're not talking about old fighters that are still trying to be relevant, and you're not talking about smaller guys like Manny Pacquiao that will never be comfortable at welterweight, right? Never be a full-fledged welterweight. What you're talking about in Pacquiao is a guy that was so good at the lighter weights, is such a pound-for-pound stalwart that he was able to go up to welterweight and systematically fight guys at very specific weight classes, right? And so Manny is like the perfect notion of this, of what I'm saying. Here's a guy who knew he was better than these guys, skillfully speaking, right? Because again, Oscar out of his fucking prime, right? And Margarito out of his prime. So he went, Pacquiao said, I can't compete at 154, but I can beat that dude's ass, right? I can't fight at the full 147, but if y'all want that payday, you're going to come to what I say you come to, right? And so what we saw were solidified A-sides and desperation from guys who were, lost it, vying for relevancy in the sport again, right? That's not where Devin and Shakur are. That's not where they are, and they don't deserve a fight to be made out of desperation, right? There are still plenty of guys that these guys can fight, and then they can fight these guys and build themselves up on a way to where this does make sense. Right? Let Shakur get to 147. If you really want this fight should have been a situation where it was like a 2-3 fight deal, like what we used to have with promoters, right? You ask yourself now, can boxing even work this way, right? Is it a situation where it can even work this way? Or is throwing money at the fighters, like just to get them to fight, potentially, it goes to what Mex was saying earlier, right? The UFC delivers on so many fights that nothing feels special. And I'm sorry, I think you lose the specialness of Shakur and Haney without a title attached. Is Shakur great or not? He is very great. He's a great junior welterweight. Absolutely. Sugar Ray Leonard ain't right at light heavyweight till he did Pernell Whitaker, Roy Jones. Need I go on, Mario? You can go on, because then you're just doubling down on my argument. My argument is that any relevant fighter you could look at that has taken these risks did so at a time in their career where money was the driving factor, right? Because they were already at the tail end. But then on the other side, they were also able to cherry pick, right? It doesn't look like a cherry pick when the short guy is picking on the tall guy. It doesn't look like a cherry pick when the skinny kid is messing with the big fat kid, right? It doesn't look like a cherry pick when Kell Brook fights Triple G. It looks like it the other way around when Triple G picks a smaller guy, right? So to use Jones as an example is perfect. To use Sugar Ray Leonard is perfect. You're talking about guys that were closer to the end of their career, certainly outside of their prime, who were trying to drum up interest because they were no longer able or relevant in their weight class, right? So they had to find other avenues right? To be able to like up the stakes and up the ante. But Roy Jones said it very, very clear. He said, I'm not saying I can be heavyweight champion. I'm not saying I could beat all the other heavyweights. What I'm saying is I could beat that heavyweight. That fat Mexican, I could beat his ass. And he did. And then he never fought again at heavyweight at that point. So I don't know. I think that every single example you bring me falls outside of the constitutional purpose of boxing, to have two people in a weight class that are able to identify who the best is, right? And it's like, to do it outside of that narrative feels inappropriate and wrong. Inappropriate because they don't need each other right now. Yes, it's a badass fight and it's a fight I want, but there are other fights out there that they could make in their weight class, right? If you think Shakur is so good that he nullifies weight classes the way that Manny Pacquiao did, the way that Floyd Mayweather did, the way that GSP seemed to do in his day, if you believe that, then I understand where you are coming from. But the truth is, I don't feel that way. I don't believe he's proven that yet. Certainly not at junior welterweight. Because then it's like, where do we go from there? Okay, so which one of them is best at 144? Okay, but which one's best at 145? Which one's best at 143? You see how it's a slippery slope that's too hard? Clip that right where he said, fuck her right back, and stop before he says he's just kidding. Hilarious. You and I both know when a fighter wants to fight, the fight will happen. There's one guy stopping it, and that's Shakur. So again, I ask, is he great or not? Stopping the fight is not a way I would deter that. And that's so why isn't Devin not stopping the fight by going down to 143? It's only one more pound. You see what I'm saying? Like, so why do we take this firm line when Shakur nor Devin remain as the obvious A side in this? You see what I'm saying? It's like, you can't say that is an equivalency because Shakur is not being given an opportunity. You know what I mean? He's giving the opportunity he's being given, right? And by the way, only one of these guys has a loss on the record, right? Only one of these guys has their O completely gone. And yes, that shouldn't count. That shouldn't matter, but too bad it does, right? Hardcores, sometimes they get their feelings too hurt, right? And they get their pussy lips all in a bunch because they are like, oh, no, this isn't how it works. Well, guess what? It is how it works. You know why? Because the mass dictate how it works. And the casual fans are a lot bigger group than we are. Pacquiao first fight at welterweight was at 147 versus Oscar. Again, is Shakur great or not? Shakur is great at junior welter. So I ask you, do you give a fuck if he is do you give a fuck if he's a weight bully champion or an email champion, right? Or a catch weight champion? Like, because I don't give a fuck. What do I give a fuck about that? Like, have Haney actually like do something at welterweight, and then I'll have the requisite to call him the best. Because I don't know if it's true about Haney yet. I know this fight would help settle it. I don't know how much it settles anything at either division, right? Like, Shakur could beat Devin Haney at 144 and legitimately not be the best 147 pounder. Like, I don't want that fight then, right? Give me a fight where they're fighting at 140 or they're fighting at 147. This catch weight shit that was introduced to the degree it was by Pacquiao and Top Rank, it gave a more credence to the idea of the A side trying to take advantage, right? If Shakur's the one holding up this fight, then tell me the reason. And if the reason is because he refuses to fight out of his weight class, that's not a good enough reason. I'm sorry. If he is not ready to fight outside of 140, then that is his prerogative. And if he believes that 144 is a much bigger difference than 143, then he knows his body better. All I know is that we could come into that fight at 144 and Shakur not be the best version of himself. Haney not be the best version of himself. You're right. Are they great? And they can test it against each other. But shouldn't it be done on the most fairest of grounds? Shouldn't we have the best versions of both of them and not the version of, oh, are you great enough to overcome the the weight deficit or the weight disadvantage? Are you good enough to do that? Do you have that ability? And if the answer is no, then I don't think that they should be fighting. Isn't Shakur the one that said if they wanted to fight him, it would be a catch weight? Yeah, that's what he said. He said it would have to be a catch weight because he's not a welterweight, right? So to say that, oh, well, it's a catch weight, that's it. That's ridiculous, Matt. That's ridiculous. So it's just a catch weight if it's like what, 146.5? Or what if it was 140.7? Is that a catch weight? See, to suggest that, oh, he said a catch weight is fine, that's the only way they're going to fight, because he was being honest. It was the only way they're going to fight because he knew Devin Haney wasn't going to come down to 140, and he knew he was never going to take that fight at his full 147 that Haney's already been acclimated to without his own fights getting acclimated to the weight, guys. Come on, this is ridiculous. This feels like you're holding Shakur to a higher standard than you should simply because his fan base believes that it's already good enough to crown him pound for pound. I don't believe that. Rational people don't believe that. Non-Shakur dick suckers don't believe that. Instead, what we believe is Shakur needs to prove it, and he needs to prove it in his damn division, right? We went through this whole fucking thing with, oh, the 4 lightweight kings, the new 4 kings. Oh, I'll fucking nut on your Prince Andrew looking face, you fucking son of a bitch. None of y'all were kings. All of y'all were fucking little bitches. I'm going to say it, except for Devin. And you know what? TO2. Actually, most of them weren't. It was just Ryan and Tank, right? Ryan and Tank, little bitches. They bitched around each other until they fought each other. And then Ryan's like, oh, my pussy hurt. It was too much weight. And it's like, oh, okay. So then you just want a narrative to be able to fight. Like, that's what you want from this fight with Tank and Shakur. I mean, with Shakur and Devin Haney. You want the ability for one of them to make an excuse, like super easy, that is as believable as Ryan Garcia's. I don't think we want that, guys. I don't think we want to know who's simply better between Devin Haney and Shakur Stevenson. I think we want to know who is the best in that division, who's the best in the world, potentially ever, at that weight class, whatever it may be that they meet up at. So yeah, I don't, saying that he would have had to fight at a catch weight is just being honest. He didn't say that it had to be 144, it had to be 145, it had to be 142. He said if it was going to be a fight, it was going to be at catch weight. So again, I ask, why can't Devin come down to 143 or 142? Now, I'm not really asking that because my response would be the same response I have for Shakur. Devin is not obligated to fight anybody at a weight class below 147. That is the limit. That's where he should be fighting if that's the weight that he comes in at. His opponent should be allowed to make whatever weight he makes between that 40 and 47 discrepancy, right? That's what he should be able to do. Not have to make 144 to satisfy, this fight that we're just trying to Frankenstein together. Man, nobody's going to remember the catch weight in 20 years. Do people don't remember Canelo Floyd at 152? Yes, they do. Everybody remembers that. Cody Canelo for the middleweight crown. Yes, everybody remembers this stuff. Everybody remembers Pac Margarito. What are you talking about? That is literally the number one thing people talk about when it comes to Pacquiao. He is constantly called not an 8-time champion because nobody buys his junior middleweight reign. A lot of people talk shit about that. A lot of people talk shit about Pacquiao and De La Hoya. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you know this. De La Hoya got hooked up to an IV. He got so dehydrated, right? The version that we saw Pacquiao beat De La Hoya, that's not De La Hoya. That wasn't De La Hoya. Not even close, right? I don't know who's better between Manny Pacquiao and Oscar De La Hoya because the fight I saw was peak Manny Pacquiao versus drug-addled Oscar De La Hoya. That, let's be real about what we saw then, right? Yeah, so no, that's not true. People definitely remember the catch weights. Now, in this instance, yeah, it might be overshadowed by how great a fight it is or whatever, but the whole Tank Ryan Garcia proves that these weight class advantages and these A-side discrepancies can absolutely become the narrative for a rematch. Or how about pound for pound money? Or how about pound for pound Mosley jumping up 2 weights and beating a pound for pound Oscar? Again, is Shakur great or not? He's great. You can ask as many times as you want, but you have to first answer the question of, do you think that jumping up like that defines greatness? Because that's something beyond greatness, right? I think Bam is great. I don't know if he's good enough to just jump up to the next couple weights and start fucking wrecking shop, right? Is Devin great? You answer that one, because he's not the one moving up. He's the one trying to get the smaller guy to come up, right? Is Devin great? If he's great, why doesn't he go challenge Fundora, right? They could meet at 150, 151, 152. So it's like we hold these guys to standards that other fighters with different contexts had, and that isn't a basis for which we can judge who's ducking and who's not. I can't see a reason why Shakur is ducking just because Manny Pacquiao had a big enough name to get a guy to, agree to any fucking weight class he wanted, right? I can't concede that Shakur should go to 144 just because Mayweather was a big enough A side to take every advantage he could have, right? I want to see these guys fight without stipulations, right? I want to see them fight without hindrances. I want to see them fight in a way that they have a camp that was focused on skill, getting better, and establishing a game plan against the specific opponent they're fighting. I don't want to see a fight for which the narrative immediately after, everybody's going to hold their breath. Is he going to say that the weight was a problem? Is he going to say he thinks he would have won with the weight? Because he's going to. He's going to. And so then look where we are in a fight that, you're right, a lot of times catch weights aren't the most prominent thing talked about, right? And sometimes they're forgotten a little too quickly. But again, you have a fight in Tank and Ryan that shows you what'll happen or what could happen when these guys try to fight outside their weights. It's meant for the biggest fights in the world. It's meant for two guys that have had these crazy careers and they never lined up at the right weight class, and now they're going to make the fight happen, right? A la Mayweather Oscar. That was basically what we saw from them. That is not where we are with Devin Haney and Shakur Stevenson at this point. Not even close. Not even a little bit. Devin's title would be on the line at 144. Sure, but is it fair to be able to say that a guy who is normally able to make 147 but is now relegated to 144 is fighting for that same title? Like, it's like tomorrow, right? The heavyweight title is going to be on the line, right? The heavyweight title is going to be on the line, or interim, but still, the heavyweight title is going to be on the line. Can we say that is being fought under the same parameters as other matches when it rains and the mat's slippery, or the bugs are just like crashing down and fucking kamikazing people? Can we say if it's like so humid that the fucking everything gets all greasy and everything's slippery and like literally it's a shit show? Can we hold them to the same principled foundation for which athletes are meant to participate? They're meant to engage, right? If you're going to do a rodeo, there better be a fucking dirt there on the ground, and there better be fences to be unlocked and not. If you're going to go play basketball, there better be a court that's waxed, balls that are pumped, and nets that meet the height regulations, right? All these things in all these different sports meet a specific parameter, and when they're played on those even playing fields, we can determine who the best are. And in fact, we can go back when they're played under the same circumstances, and we can compare and contrast greats from different era, right? We could say, oh, Bird and Jordan and LeBron and Kobe, they all played under the same parameters, right? This FIFA Cup, we could say, oh, the U.S. team, how are they going to do? Well, they're playing under the same parameters that all these other teams. That's what a real sport is based on. How can you duplicate the results of a game under the same parameters, right? Now, sometimes it rains, sometimes it snows, sometimes it's super hot. All those things play a factor in some of the sports that I mentioned. They never should ever play a factor in combat sports, ever, never. And so, I just don't think it's easy to, it makes no sense to me to fight under different parameters of a fight of a sport that has very specific rules. Mind you, Mario, this is the second time Shakur has turned away the fight with Devin. They were both at 135. Devin was undisputed and offered Shakur the fight. No, that's not the way it happened. I mean, that's the way they try to play it out in the news or in the thing. Devin wasted no time moving away from the every time Shakur's moved up. Devin's wasted little to no time, right? And there were several stories about the money and how much it was being offered for that fight. When when things like that happen, when you get discrepancies in numbers, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a lie, but it does mean that, the number wasn't always the number. Again, Mario Shakur is one who said 144. Devin agreed. So what is the problem? He didn't say 144. Show me a clip of him saying 144. Never heard him say 144. Maybe I'm wrong, but show me the clip. Show me where he said 144, let's go. I remember him saying a catch weight, but that don't mean 144. And here's the other part. You say 144 and he says, okay, but now you're leaving out the part where the money, right? What is 144 worth? Like at the end of the day, let's say you and me, Mex, we're going to fight Border Wars, right? Big money fight. Ness is going to pay us both. All right. You're willing to fight me. You're willing to fight me at a catch weight. And if I say, hey, that catch weight's going to be 220 or 225, right? And you'll say, all right, I could do that. I'm going to do it for 5,000, whatever the fuck, right? And then I come back and I say, oh, you know what? Never mind. I meant 175 is what I want you to do it for. You're going to have to come down to 175. That's not the same kind of money now, right, champ? We're not talking about the same kind of money anymore. Like if I'm telling you you're going to do a harder job, right? Like you're driving your truck. Hey, you're going to drive your truck from here to Montana, right? Hey, but you have to do it with one arm tied behind your back, and you have to tuck your penis into a mangina. Like, should you get paid the same amount of money that you normally get paid with those like weirdo little stipulations? No, right? You should be getting paid applicable to the danger. What do they call it? Hazard pay. You ever had to drive oil or gasoline or shit like that, right? I don't know if you have or not, but they will give you hazard pay if you did, right? So this is hazard pay in the form of Shakur. Haney's fought once at 147, by the way, still acclimated. I think Hot Kit just broke. Oh shit, I missed it. Damn it. Let me see.
What you can always depend on is that he is going to back it up. He's game, he's brutal, and he looks forward to putting it on the Black Beast, Derek Lewis.
Down. I'm holding him to the same standard as Benavidez with Jai. This is another guy who claims to be the best across multiple weights and claims no one wants to fight them, so someone is saying yes. No, I don't think that is it. Here's the thing. You're talking about two guys that fight at like one of the top divisions. We all know like the lighter the weight class, like the slighter the difference, right? So you're telling me that if Benavidez wanted to fight Jai and he calls him out and that guy's in his weight class, that's the same thing as a dude who's consistently been at a weight class ahead. Like, show me these interviews where Shakur is saying, oh, I'm fucking better than Jermall Charlo and Fundora and Spence and Inoue and Tank, and I'll fuck up 130 to 147 to 154. Like, show me those videos where he's talking crazy like that. I don't see it. I see him saying a lot of, oh, I'll fight this guy, I'll fight that guy. Connor Ben specifically, that don't mean he could come up to 150. He's not saying I'll come up to 154. Like, y'all guys are not giving the context. You're taking it away, and it feels like you're doing it specifically to make Shakur look like the duck in this situation. And I'm not even saying he's not the duck. What I'm saying is that it is not an easy situation when you have a catch weight involved. These guys aren't the best at welterweight and 140. They're not. So why the fuck are we talking about a catch weight? Either Shakur wants to be the 147 champion now and he steps up and fights him, or he doesn't. And if he doesn't, that doesn't make him a duck. It doesn't make him a duck because he's not willing to fight at a weight class he's never fought at professionally. Never. That is something to take into serious consideration when this stuff happens. So, again, to say it was always the best across all weight classes. Yeah, everyone says that. Who doesn't say that? Everybody says that. at the end of the day, what's he doing to fight them things, right? Like, he isn't coming up with catch weights and shit like that he's fighting on other sides of this. No, Mario. Shakur said 144. Devin asked if that is where we can fight, and Shakur said yes. And Devin accepted. Shakur himself laid that out as a term. Check the group chat. Okay, I'll do it. Nah, skip all this. Read the group chat. Okay. This is exactly what happened. They offered Shakur the fight. They offered him 5% increase to the 80-20 split that the WBC was going to enforce as a mandatory. Stop the cap, brother. I don't think it is a duck to believe in yourself. That offer is the kind of offer you give to somebody who's desperate, that will never have a shot. This is his Rocky moment, right? At the end of the day, if Shakur were to undispute 140 and then move up to 147, these guys would be in a 50-50 split, right? These guys, in fact, you could argue Shakur might be the A side at that point. I'm not saying that an offer was not made or an offer was not spoke about. What I'm saying is that unless Shakur is getting terms that equal that of Devin Haney, there is no fight to talk about. And we're not there yet. So then we don't have a fight to talk about. And so, like, again, ultimately, you're saying, what's the problem with the 144 thing with the 144 catch weight if Shakur already agreed, or if he has said it? I would say that the problem would be that you'd be breaking contract law in half and making it rendered completely useless, right? Contract law exists for a reason, and it exists because terms are spelt out in a very specific way, right? And a lot of those times it comes from, precedent that's already been set on the matter. And so the idea that, like, they offered him this really, this 80-20 or 75-25, whatever the fuck it is. Again, I say that going off of the fights that have been fought, right? I'm not mad at either guy right now. Like, I'm not mad that Shakur didn't fight Devin, because at the end of the day, Devin's better today, right? Devin's better today. I think he's shown improvement from that kid he was at 135. And so, like, ultimately him fighting Devin and waiting, that's a much more dangerous thing, right? Same thing for Devin, waiting for Shakur to get better, bigger, adjust to the weight. Us popping it off at 144, again, I just don't see the reason in that, because while you might say that satisfies what Shakur initially said, we don't know that we don't know how it was secured in contract law. We don't know how they put it down on paper to say, oh, this is going to be a 144, like, this hydration clause, blah, blah. So it's like all those determining factors make the gamble to go to 144 like move up and down, right? So, you're putting a cap on what I can weigh in after the fact. Okay, now that 144 is less appealing. Oh, you're not going to give me 50-50. You're going to give me, 70-30. Okay, well, now that 144 is not as appealing, right? Oh, you want to walk out last. Whatever the fuck it is. Whatever the fuck it is that make that 144 not as appealing. Because the fans that want it, we're just desperate. We're like, oh, he said 144. Oh, he said it. No takesy backsies. But that's just not the world we live in, champs. Y'all know that. Right? Shakur can talk all that shit. He's been talking that shit, right? How many different ways do we have of Tank or Inoue or fucking whoever saying out of pocket shit that, you know what I mean? Like, oh, I'll fight anybody and we've heard that a million times. Nobody fucking holds them to that bullshit. So at the end of the day, all I'm saying is that the fans lose because it's almost like they get to fight with a safety net, right? They fight and either guy can be like, oh man, it was so tough losing those extra three. It was, or man, you know what, guys, I just didn't know what it was going to feel like this heavy. And, it's different sparring than under the bright lights. And it's like, y'all are letting them fight under a standard for which we're not even going to get a definitive answer. And they're going to be able to pull it back on us and say, oh, well, if this was different, there should be no reason that Tank and Ryan are fighting or a rematch should be talked about. And yet I've heard many times over the last couple of years that indeed a rematch is on the table. And I am willing to bet that we will see Tank versus Ryan again one day. And the simple fact is that we shouldn't even be talking about that fight. Ryan's done nothing to solidify himself as a better fighter than he was on that night. And on top of that, Tank has done little to solidify he's even fucking willing to fight still. I don't know. You just went on this rant as if 144 just appeared out of thin air and not directly from Shakur Stevenson. Sure, again, I mean, I guess I already answered that. But yeah, the point is I'm not going to hold fighters to this whole like, oh, you said it. No, you said it. These are world championship fights at the highest level. These aren't fucking scraps and border wars. These aren't fucking white collar events. This is millions upon millions of dollars. So is it a bad look? Sure, you get no fucking argument from me. Casual fans are retarded. So they're obviously going to be like, oh, look, he's ducking. But the idea that somehow that 144 is set in stone and that makes it the definitive number, it's just a random number, guys. Nobody knows what 144 represents. Nobody knows who that hurts or benefits more. We don't know that. It's a random number. And by the way, Shakur's kind of stupid, right? Can we agree Shakur's kind of dumb? So you could say something like 144, I'll do it. And then somebody with a brain who understands nutrition and weight can come up to him and say, yeah, dude, you're kind of dumb, dude. You're taking a financial hit and you're the one coming up to 144. Like, the biometrics and the body make it so that somebody Devin's age and, athleticism is able to cut certain weight while you operate at a body metamorphosis that's, restricts your ability to gain. Like, all those things come into a factor. So when you're Shakur and you pop off on fucking Sway or fucking The Breakfast Club, I'm sorry, that doesn't hold it for me. That doesn't do it for me. I know that there are two skill sets between Devin Haney and Shakur Stevenson, and they're both very good. One of them is better. I don't think we get that answer fighting at a catchweight. I don't see how we could. Shakur even laid out why 144 was fair for both champions. I mean, yeah, I guess we can all do the math, right? It's 4 pounds more for junior welterweight and it is 3 pounds less for welterweight. You're giving the guy who's having to come up more room than you're giving the guy going down, and that's fair, right? Because it's harder to lose 3 pounds than it is to gain 4, right? Yeah, the rationale is there. I'm not saying that it doesn't make sense. I'm saying at the highest level, it doesn't work like kids on a playground, right? I'm saying at the championship level in prize fighting, it doesn't work like fucking, I can't think of a kid's thing. I was trying to think of like a tic-tac-toe or hot potato. I can't even think of one at all. Yeah, I guess I'm not going to do that, but that's okay. Oh, you said read the group chat. My bad. I thought you had already said all that stuff. But Mario, the last 6 months, Shakur has faced off with a junior lightweight, called out 3 welterweights, and beat a 140-pounder. How does that not show what he's saying? Because everybody does that, champ. Because it's literally the same playbook. Like, everybody mentions everybody's name for clout. Like, at the end of the day, I would never have held Jake Paul to fighting Joshua at all, even if he would have said it. Like, he would have pulled out that night, I would have said, damn, that was a smart ass idea, right? Like, it's a difference between saying something off cuff and out of pocket or randomly in an era where you are trying to get people to watch your shit. You're trying to get people interested in you, right? Attention is a form of currency in today's era of boxing, MMA, and wrestling. And so when you can have people talking about you, like Josh, by the way, who's on this press conference, when you can have these guys basically be talked about in a positive way, sky's the limit. Again, at the time, Shakur wasn't even a champion. Again, do what the greats have done and take the short money and prove your greatness. Okay, so let me ask you this question. You think Devin is where, I mean, you think Shakur's as great as Floyd Mayweather was when he fought De La Hoya? Are you saying that you think that Shakur is as great as Manny Pacquiao has proven by the time he fought De La Hoya? Because you're making these arguments, but understand, just simply asking the question, is he great, to him, that's a question that obviously you're trying to trap him. He's going to say yes, and then you're going to say, well, then do what the greats did. Okay, but now I'm going to ask you, do you think Shakur is one of those greats already? Because then I would say that the problem isn't whether you're holding Shakur too much to what he said randomly. The problem would be that you're giving way too much credit to Shakur, and you are believing his, promotional bullshit. See, I don't believe it when a fighter goes out there and says, I'm the best in the world. I think that he thinks that's true. And if he doesn't, then he better fucking hope so, because you need that confidence when you're going out to fight another human being. I would not hold anyone to those standards at all, especially outside of an applicable field. So no matter what you say about this 144, right, you have no defense against the idea that boxing is fought at 140 and 147. So what again are we proving? Why do you want to see this fight so badly that you don't care that it's even being fought under normal boxing circumstances? Have you given Shakur the keys to the kingdom so quickly, so fast? Have you anointed Devin Haney as the king of the sport so quickly, so fast, that this represents to you the number 1 and number 2 pound for pound fighters in the world fighting? Because if it does not meet that criteria, then you're just simply asking for a random ass fight to be fought at 144, when both of these men are capable at fighting at a specific weight class, 147, 154. Who knows? All I know is that this fight is not ready in the sense that these guys can find the money to meet the weight qualifications, right? If this fight was supposed to be at 147 because Shakur was coming up to 147 or has been up to 140, and it's a duck. It's absolutely a duck. Yeah, I just don't think you can hold Shakur to that. Go now, read the group, buddy, so you can say what I'm saying. Okay. If I come to 144, we have a fight. 144 is fair for 2 champions in 2 separate weight classes. Floyd and Canelo made one of the biggest fights happen ever. If y'all seriously wanted the fight, it would be easy to make. Y'all fought Jose Ramirez at 250. Yeah. So I saw that. It doesn't say at all what you said it said. Here's what this says. Let me tell you. Okay. He's saying 144 is a fair 2 champion in 2 separate weight classes. Sick weight class, right? So he's talking about the division hopping. Floyd and Canelo, he references there. Then he even talks about how you gave Jose Ramirez a fight at that weight class. And then he says, if I come to 144, we have a fight. Yes. Okay. Now, I will admit Shakur is an idiot. I will admit he gets goated very easily. What I won't admit is any sort of admittance that he'll just fight at 144 no matter what. The idea that the money doesn't have to match the risk is crazy to me. Right? These are 2 dumbass kids, one of them who's really fucking stupid, and Shakur, having a Twitter spat in an era where people just pop off and say random shit on Kick and Twitch all the time. Does it look like a duck? Sure. Society, as it's made up of casual fans mostly, will call this a duck. Is it actually a duck to be protecting the sanctity of your career based on the evidence that you've just had with guys like Ryan Garcia and Tank? Like, again, I feel like I'm repeating myself because the notion is clear. If your only premise for wanting this fight at 144 is that Shakur said it could be at 144, That's such a stupid thing to me. I'm sorry. I don't see the relevancy. I don't see the rationale. Like, so if Mike Trout said he was better at basketball than Tom Brady, that would just settle that. They would meet in the middle by playing hockey. Like, you know what I mean? That's I feel like this is very simple, right? I'll explain it one more time because I was just thought of it. Mike Trout says, I'm better at basketball than Tom Brady. And Tom Brady says, oh, yeah, I'm better at basketball. How do we decide? Let's play tennis. Now, I'm not saying that argument I just said is the same as the 144 argument. What I am saying, though, is that it settles nothing. You guys want to hold him to this idea that he said 144, so it has to be 144, when in reality, he said 144 could satisfy the weight stipulation. I'm good to fight at 144. But he never said how much he was willing to fight at the 144. Like, do you think that he should take the same amount of money fighting at 140 as he would fighting at 144 as he would fighting at 147? No, of course not, right? And if he was coming up to 147, don't you think he deserved more of the pot, right? Because he's making a goodwill gesture to, coming up to this weight class. Yeah, I don't see how you could even get away from that. So we talk about over marinating a fight, that these two have been linked since at minimum 2023. Oh, I would say way longer. I would say since like 2018, 2019, 2023 for Undisputed. And you want to keep marinating? Which is it, bud? Which do you want? Well, I don't want to marinate anything at all, right? So I don't think you're understanding my argument. Marinating has to do with building up two fighters to a promotional level that meets a certain level that casual fans will buy into, right? Making it a successful financial thing. I'm not asking for that. What I'm asking for is an actual fight in boxing, fought at 140 or 147. If these guys want to fight in a catch weight, of course I'll watch it, but it's not what I prefer. I would rather have it at 140, 147. So if one of them says no, based on the fact that they're not getting paid enough to take that risk, which again, I don't understand how you don't see it's a risk, then I'm okay with that. I'm absolutely okay with that. I am okay with him saying, you know what? This is too risky for me. I'm out. And even if it's like, oh, well, you said 144. Now you look, everybody's going to make fun of you. Who gives a fuck? I don't care. And let me tell you why Shakur don't care and why he shouldn't care. Because all this conversation goes away immediately the second these guys fight. And here's the thing, they don't even have to fight. If Shakur to like starch or just absolutely rout anyone of maybe not equivalent, basis, but a top guy at junior welterweight or welterweight, if he were to do that, like that solidifies him more, right? His ability. Like, what are we talking about? Nobody's going to be talking shit, right? How many times did Floyd and Pacquiao fucking duck? Nobody even talks about that shit anymore, right? Yeah, they talk about, oh, the fight was a little washed by the time we got it, but nobody talks that shit anymore, right? I don't know. I just don't see how you could have the conversation about marinating when I'm having a conversation about the sanctity of the sport and what that's worth. Because anytime two guys meet at a catch weight, somebody is advantageous. Somebody is receiving a more advantageous somebody's receiving a more advantageous weight, right? And so I don't think this fight needs one of them capping for advantages. I want to see their skill on the most even playing field possible. That's not 144, and y'all know that. He didn't just say it. Devin said, if I go to 144, we have a fight. But Mex, you don't think you sound a little childish saying, oh, we said 144, we have a fight? Like, the money is a big part of it, right? Where the fight happens, the back end, if there's a pay-per-view. Like, you're oversimplifying it. And it's not that it's making me mad. It's not making me mad at all, but it is not frustrating me. It bothers me because I know how much you know about this sport. I know yet you know that fight contracts aren't as simple as you said it on Twitter. No, no, no. You said it on Twitter. That makes it legal. You can't get out of it. That's it. Like, come on, that's retarded, right? That's nitpicky, right? That's like trying to win a debate, an argument. I'm not trying to win an argument, right? This is Shakur's thing. This is his to defend. What I am saying is that I'm not as bummed. I'm not as bummed as it was when it almost happened in 135 or when it could have happened in 140 or when it should happen in 147. I am bummed that we're not getting that fight. But if it saves it from being a money grab that solidifies nothing from within the junior welterweight or welterweight division, then maybe they saved us. Maybe they saved us from having to spend our money on a fight that would have only ever ended in needing another fight. You get what I'm saying? Like you give Devin, you give Haney, I'm sorry, you give Shakur the opportunity of saying, hey, I was outmatched. I was outweighed. I was outgunned. Leonard Duran won Chavez versus Whitaker, where a champion from 40 comes up to 147 without ever fighting. Yet Shakur can't. Is he great or not? Yeah, again, I think that you have to answer that now. You keep asking this great or not question. What is great to you? Do you think Floyd was great? Because I think he was special, way beyond great. Manny Pacquiao, do you think he was great or special? Because I think he was special, right? Leonard, Duran, Chavez, Whitaker, all these names, you call them great or are they legendary? Is there not a line? Is there not a difference? Or have you already crowned Shakur as good as Leonard, as good as Duran, as good as Chavez, as good as any of these other guys? Because again, if that is the case, then it is you who is overvaluing some of these guys. I don't think Shakur has proven himself to be the number one guy. He probably is, right? He probably is, but I don't think he's done it enough to prove it. Haney certainly hasn't done enough to prove at 147 that he's the number one guy. So all these fights that you're talking about where a champion from 140 goes after the champion from 147, you're right. We have precedent for that. And in all that precedent, it tells us that this isn't that fight, right? We're not talking about the best at 147. We're not talking about the best at 140. We don't even know that. What we are talking about is two guys that are trying to get around the hard work of going undisputed, of becoming a multi-champion, multi-belt champion, right? And unifying. What we're talking about is somebody who seems they want to go around that route. And instead of becoming one of the best in the division and then seeking out another guy who mirrors that in an opposing division, higher or lower, instead, he's trying to get his super fight already. He's trying to get that fight that Chavez earned, that De La Hoya earned, that Pacquiao earned, that Mayweather earned. I'm sorry, Devin hasn't done any of those things yet that even match, even to a degree of who those guys are and what they represent in the sport. So it's like, do I want to see two young Black American fighters fight each other? Absolutely, I do. Right now, it is done. It doesn't need the marinating. Let's do it. But if it's supposed to be, one of the biggest fights ever in the history of the sport, yeah, it's not there. It's not even close to there, right? If it's supposed to be the best 140 versus the best 147, it's not there. It's never going to be, by the way. Not like this. Not like this. The best 140 versus the best 147, and they meet in the middle, and you have a problem with it. Why? Well, but wait, no, I don't have a problem with it. I have a problem. Yes, okay, I have a problem with you calling him the best of 147. Absolutely, I have a problem with that. Like, you can't just give them those titles without them earning it. That's the problem, Mario. Nobody even got to bring up a split because he said 144. Devin called his bluff, and then Shakur immediately tried to act like 144 was just this crazy idea. Has he acted like it's a crazy idea, or has he just said no, that the fight wasn't happening? Devin specifically, right? Because have we heard from Shakur? I'm honestly asking. I haven't really been on the internet in the last 12 hours. Yeah, because all I've seen is Devin say, nope, we don't have a fight. Shit. If it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, then it's probably a duck. Sure, absolutely. Agreed. That said, I don't have the paperwork to know if it's a duck, right? And neither do y'all. Unless you're willing to say that fighting at 144 is worth the same amount of money that it would be at 140 or 147. And here's the thing: if you said that, obviously I destroy that argument in a heartbeat. So then what are we saying here? You're saying that him just saying 144, that's fine. That's it. That's all we needed. That nothing else needs to be secured. That the idea that fighting at 144 is the same as fighting at 147, because it's not, right? You could say it's a duck because he said 144 and then they're not fighting. But let me ask you both this. Do you know that that was the point that broke this up? Do you know that the weight is the problem that Shakur said no to? Or could it be that the amount of money that was going to be guaranteed wasn't worth the risk for the 144? Can't we admit that me saying, all right, Matt, all right, we're going to fight. Me and you are going to fight. And you say, okay, cool. And I say, fine, we're going to fight at 160. Your ass is going to make 160. And then you say, cool. And I say, cool. All right, we got that fight. And then I tell Ness, hey, we're going to fight, man. You know, it's going to be one of the biggest fights ever. So you're going to pay for our flights, right? And everything. And he's like, nah. Oh, well, but we don't have to pay to do it, right? Because you're going to make a shit ton of money off of us being in the main event. Nah. Oh, so you're going to pay us then or something? Like, what's going on here? You're not, I know you're not going to just try to make a bunch of money off of us in the main event and then not give us anything back in return, like nothing. Yeah. Oh, well then, nah, never mind. I'm not fighting then. Nah, never mind. I refuse. I refuse 160 then. I refuse. You know what I mean? Like, that's what time it is. Like, I refuse, even though I said this weight is okay, I didn't mean that it's okay, like, under any circumstance. Like, I didn't mean, hey, you could pay me in Canadian and I'll fight at 144. I didn't say, hey, you could pay me $1 million to fight at 144 and then you come back with $1 million in pesos. And I'm supposed to be like, oh, I guess I said it on Twitter. I guess that means it's true. Like, come on, guys. Y'all know that's not true. So again, you don't even have a defense for this because we never even got to the money. No, but that's what I'm saying is this is all the point for me. This is my argument. This is my defense. My defense is that it's absolutely moronic to look at that transition of that conversation online and say, well, that's it. That's all we needed was somebody to say 144 was the weight. A million different things could be the cause for this contract not going through. The narrative is 144. So the narrative makes it looks like Shakur's ducking. But again, none of us have the knowledge. None of us have the details of this contract. And none of us know what Shakur was expecting when he said 144, right? Again, 144 is him gaining one more pound and Devin losing one more and losing one less pound, right? So it's closer for Devin than it is for Shakur. Now, if I'm Shakur, I'm expecting the money split to reflect the weight, even though it's 1 pound. And if that's not cool, then come to 143 and I'll forget about it. But you're not going to do that. So then again, we're not talking about a duck. We're talking about a situation where you're trying to Frankenstein a fight that doesn't even work. It doesn't even make sense because it's not happening at 140 or 147, despite the fact that the belt being on line, which everybody used to have a problem with Pacquiao. Why the fuck can he defend a title that the maximum weight can't be met? All that to say, Manny Pacquiao is not Devin Haney. Devin Haney is not Manny Pacquiao. Shakur is not Floyd Mayweather. These guys are not that level of stars, right? I think that y'all might be undervaluing boxing and then thus overvaluing those two because boxing has done a bad job of replacing the stars that were Floyd and Canelo. Like Canelo, Floyd, Pacquiao, De La Hoya, Nobody exists like that today, right? I mean, maybe Tank, but is he even a boxer or is he just beating up women? I don't know. But all I'm saying is this. Those two guys aren't big enough to say, oh, the winner of us is the king of welterweights, right? 140 to 147. That's not the case. That's not the case. Not even close, right? There's still a guy named Tank out there who's basically fought at all those weight classes. And so if that fight's going to happen, let it happen under the parameters for which boxing is supposed to happen, right? 144 to 147. I mean, 140 to 147. 144 catch weights like that only exist for us to determine who the two best at a weight class are. And again, that's not where we are. Y'all are giving them way too much credit for doing far less than guys like De La Hoya did or Floyd did or Manny Pacquiao. He said 144. He said 144. Devin said yes. Then Shakur completely backtracked before a negotiation even took place, and he's trying to hide behind his brother. I think that it's so easy to say it like that. I mean, look, I shouldn't even say this, but guys, y'all know Shakur's not the one who's fucking making these decisions, right? Y'all know Shakur's not the person saying yes or no. Like, I hate that y'all are making me say this. Like, there's another guy in his team, two guys actually, that do not play with their money. Shakur has little to no say so in his career, and he might be lucky for that, right? I can tell you that Ryan Garcia would have been a lot more beneficial had he listened to Oscar and the rest of the guys telling him not to take that catch weight. Catch weights are a problem, guys. Catch weights are a problem. Shakur doesn't need that problem. Why does he need to fight at 144? Because he said it on Twitter? That sounds retarded. How does that make any sense? Mex keeps saying, oh, he said 144. He said 144 on Twitter. What does that mean? It means nothing. Absolutely nothing. And again, what is the split word from that? To the fact that you can say he said a number, so he has to stick with it, is the kind of primal retarded thinking that ruins the sport, like with casual fans, because then you think the undefeated record is so much more important. At the end of the day, you can't ignore what we know about boxing. And what we know is that it's a very complex negotiation for which millions and millions of dollars are at stake, right? Devin Haney has already lost his fight. He's already been in his controversy, right? And so at the end of the day, he's desperate to beat anybody that has an undefeated streak, right? He's desperate to get into it with anybody that he can redeem himself after the shellacking that Ryan Garcia gave him, holding on to the narrative that it was this drug that did it, right? And maybe true, maybe not. But ultimately, Devin is the one whose feet are on the fire. Now, I give him credit for fighting so many guys. I don't think he should be looked at like that, but he is. Casual fans see him in a very specific light. He needs a scalp like Shakur, right? Shakur is not so desperate that he needs that Haney scalp, that he's willing to forego weight or willing to forego millions, right? This is a guy who could make a mistake in fighting 144, right? Because it could be a mistake, guys. You understand that, right? He could say 144 and that be wrong. You understand that, right? He's not saying 144 and that's it. Like, he knows his body so fucking perfectly that he's able to just say 144 and he knows that that's the fairest thing in the world. You guys know that that is not the case, right? So he could have had many different things, but to me, the two most likely things that happen here that break your whole narrative of this, he said 144 one random time on Facebook, is this. Number one, again, we don't know the other sides of the contract, and thus we don't know what Shakur was thinking would be the 144 guarantee, right? Like, and then the other thing about it is that Shakur is risking far more than Devin in this fight. Again, because the trajectory that Shakur is on is that of a Floyd Mayweather, pound for pound, great, undefeated, number one guy, beating everybody's breaks off, right? Devin needs that Shakur scalp. Shakur doesn't need that Devin scalp right now. So why should he put himself out in any way? Devin's acting like he's the prize, right? Oh, you said 144. I'll say 144. Okay, so if I say 143, Is he going to fight? No, right? This is all a negotiation. It's a battle back and forth. What are you going to give? What do I have to give? And then we meet to this place. The idea that it's as simple as he set a weight and that's the weight and everything else is squared away, that sounds crazy. Crazy for the amount of egos that we know to be in this boxing game. And the idea that these two guys are just going to fucking be like, oh yeah, 144, fuck it. No way, dude. Again, they never even got to the money because it's obvious that he said 144 thinking Devin would say no, and he got his bluff called. And so, fine, let's go down that narrative. All right, Mex? And by the way, that was the second thing I was going to say. I said that two things are more likely true, right? One, another aspect of the contract or multiple aspects of the contract weren't there for Shakur. The other thing is this. Shakur said the 144, and then somebody came up to him in his camp or somebody who's his nutritionist or somebody who's his coach that understands the body far better than he does and said, that's not fair. That's not as simple as you think it is. You're just doing math. You're not keeping into context BMI. You're not keeping into context how much somebody's they're burning per week, like naturally, like all these things. What's their sleep schedule? Like all these things factor into who will benefit more by a 144 pound catch weight. So then you had somebody smart come up to him and say, listen, that's not what you think it is. It's not a fair thing. And it's not. We don't know what it would be. We can't ever know before a fight what is the fairest number. We can have a fair number in theory, but that's it. That's all we have is a fair number. In theory. In actuality, though, it is very difficult to understand what the body will do and what it won't respond to as it relates to moving up and down like that. Okay. And so if Shakur goes out there, right, takes the weight, the catch weight, and he finds out that he can barely move or his power isn't right or speed, whatever. He finds out he's not great at 144, right? Goes back down to 140. The trajectory he's on is just ruined, right? He could still be as great as he is, develop into the, a better, and the trajectory is ruined. And I'm not saying he should be guarding his undefeated streak. What I'm saying is he should be taking calculated risks. He should be taking the best fights in a division. That's the way this sport works. Again, I don't think him randomly saying 144 and then trying to hold him to that before the money. See, that's what you're saying. It's like, oh, well, he thought that he could say 144 and Devin wouldn't call his bluff. Okay. Next point. Fine. That doesn't mean he wasn't going to fight him though, right? Because that can't be your argument. Your argument can't be that fighting Devin was all a bluff, because then you wouldn't be so hurt about this, right? You believe that I didn't mean hurt. I mean, like, you wouldn't be so upset at this, right? Like this wouldn't be so egregious to you. But I don't think that Devin, I don't think it's fair to hold Devin in a role that he doesn't occupy. You're trying to defend Shakur's financial risk when we never even got there. So again, that's the problem, right? If we never got there, that's the biggest part of 144, right? So to say 144, I'm good with that. That's me as the junior welterweight champion agreeing to come into your weight class, right? So unless your offer was even remotely close to what I consider worth that risk, then there's nothing to talk about. To say that they didn't get to the money, Mex, is you admitting that they didn't get to the fight. There's no negotiation without money, champ. You understand that? You can't be marking out to this shit. Like, oh, it happened on Twitter. They got into a beef on Twitter. That's meant to rile us up. That's meant to give us something to talk about on these platforms. But that's not actually how fights get negotiated, right? We don't understand shit about negotiations like that or contract law, right? They're managers and lawyers that understand it at a high level. They're the guys that understand that shit, right? We don't. But I'm not going to assume that it's easy to understand. I'm not going to assume you got to go to fucking law school for 6 years and think, oh, I could do it. You know what I mean? And especially in this idea where it's like he said it on Twitter and that's it. No, I'm sorry. This is too big. This is way too big. This is like saying like, oh, FIFA, like America got shut down. Like we're under a terrorist attack. And Mexico and Japan are like, well, we can't play in Mexico. Oh, we can't play in Japan. Okay, we're going to meet in Hawaii and call it even. Like, says who? Why is that even? Like, what the fuck? No, this isn't the situation. Like, it's not about defending Shakur's financial status or place. It's about defending the sanctity of boxing to me. And the sanctity of boxing says that these two guys are trying to make a mega fight out of something that isn't a mega fight. You know what I mean? They're in the casuals fans' eyes, they're both just two fighters at their peak, in their prime, young guys. That's all they are. We're the only ones that understand to a potential what Shakur represents and what a win over him represents. Of course, Devin's willing to fight at 144, right? He's got to go back and get his greatness. That greatness is gone. Shakur's got it. He's got his own greatness. And now it's up for Shakur to defend it in the ring. But Devin trying to make him defend it in the negotiation table, that's bitch made. That's bitch made. Say, hey, I want you when you come to 147 because I want the best version of your ass and I want to show I'm the best at 147. That's a fucking G-ass thing to say. Saying, hey, I want to fight that man in his division at 140. That's a G-ass thing to say. But to be like, yo, oh, you said 144? 144 it is. Like, yeah, because he's desperate as shit. He would have said yes to probably 143 too. That don't make Shakur beholden to the weight. All right. Like, let's say, Cody Rhodes is going to win this Sunday, right? Like, well, what you willing to risk on it? Let's say, Cody's going to win for sure. And you say, I'll risk $1 million. Okay, cool. You going to risk your kid's life? Because it gets different when you start talking about different sums of money. So when I say 144 and then I balk at it later, and that's the only thing we talked about, that's not a negotiation, champ. That's not a negotiation. That's not real. That's for the casuals, right? That's for the people that never covered the sport. That's for the people that buy into all this fucking online bullshit. And Shakur is the best at it, right? Like, Shakur got people thinking he's like really G and shit, hanging out with the fucking Prince Juniors and shit. He think he really, really about it. That's funny. That's funny. Shakur, from what I've heard, has gotten his pockets. You know what? I shouldn't say it. Never mind. Nothing. But listen, all I know is, I followed this kid for a really long time. He seemed like a little nerdy little kid that just played sports. You know what I mean? Like, he didn't seem like anything else. And now all of a sudden he's something else. I don't like it. I don't think it's smart, but that don't mean that he is desperate to like get shit off and popping. I think you sound insane. You're trying to defend these things that Shakur never even allowed us to get to. What's why 144 is hanging point. Shakur got his bluff called, champ. Sure. Again, listen, I don't have to defend anything because I know that if money was not part of the conversation, then there wasn't a real conversation being had. Like, you can believe everything Devin's saying, but it doesn't make it true, right? Just like you could believe Shakur at the time, it didn't make it true. I think holding on to these kids' words who aren't even in control of their own situation, of their own career is preposterous. I think it's preposterous. Like, Shakur doesn't control his career. What are you talking about? Why are you holding him to this bar that you would hold no one else to unless it was a fighter you didn't like Bud? Why hold this guy specifically to this standard when boxing's been allowed to, fucking talk all the shit you want for years? Like, Devin Haney and Shakur Stevenson is about money. It's about making money. It's not about the weight, champ. It's never been about the weight, right? That's what it is for us because we're thinking about the fight and what would happen physically inside of it, right? But that's not how you get to a fight. You get to the fight by having the money to get to the fight. And, I saw he put like how much money that they could get or whatever. And look, all that's bullshit until you talk about it. So again, I think that if we want to look at really what's going on, it's not 144 and he got his bluff called. Like, yeah, maybe there's a possibility that that is the full narrative. I think it would be very, very unlikely, right? Like, you think Shakur is going to just turn down a fight and not know how much money is at the table? If they didn't have the money ready to go, ready to say, hey, this is what it is 60-40, Turkey's putting up 200 million fucking dollars. Like, boom, that's an easy conversation, champ. That's an easy conversation because it's either worth it or it's not. But you're acting like Devin is a thing to beat. Like Devin is the champion. Like, oh, Devin, the man, made the concession to 144. So now Shakur's got to follow. Why? Why? That's not what time it is. Who's the A side? Don't say it's Devin. Don't say it's Shakur because I don't think it's either of them. I think that they both exist in essentially the same sort of space, financially speaking, and certainly amongst casual fans. I don't think either of them is broken out of their transfixed place in the zeitgeist, the social media and stuff. Devin already did something that Chavez, Oscar, Floyd, Manny didn't do. What's that, champ? What did he do? Because, I wouldn't say it. I don't feel this way, but plenty of other people can make the argument that he didn't do shit as far as undisputed goes. Who's better than Haney at 147? That's what I'm saying. Who's better than Matt? I'm going to ask you that question. Who's better than Haney? Or who's Haney better than? Because any name you say that he hasn't fought is pure speculation, right? And we could have those speculation conversations, but I don't think they should be had when you're talking about the two best fighters in the world, or potentially, right? If Haney is best at 147, then let him prove it. Let him do it. Why are we giving Haney and Shakur the opportunity to fight in a manner that makes it seem like they're a super fight, when in reality, they haven't even secured being the best in their own division? What, buddy Barrio? What was the guarantee? What was the split? You know why we can't answer that? Because we never got that far. Exactly. And so the fact is, Mex, that's not far, right? The money is the first thing they talk about. It's not the last, champ. So that's what I'm trying to tell you. The 144, blood testing, fucking venue, who walks out last, all that shit is bullshit, champ. All that's bullshit. I mean, don't get me wrong, the weight is important as it relates to the money, right? Floyd Mayweather would fight AJ right now at the weight class of 200 if they were going to give him $80 billion. He would fucking just run. If they were going to give him $100 billion, I promise you Floyd would take that fight in a heartbeat. All right. So it's like, to say, for your argument to be like, we didn't even get to the money, champ. That's how big a duck it was. That's you. Let me translate what you're saying. We didn't even have a fucking negotiation. That's what you're saying. You're saying, how can there be a duck if there's no fucking negotiation? Because if you ain't talking money right away, then you ain't talking shit. What are we fighting for? Because I'm going to tell you right now, if you still think Shakur and Devin and guys like that are fighting for the greatness of boxing, bro, you got to grow up. You got to mature, because none of these guys give a fuck about the sport at all. They care about getting paid, and that is it. And so at the end of the day, fuck the prestige of them fighting. The only thing worth anything is what they do at these weight classes, because that solidifies the championships, right? That solidifies who's done what. And by the way, you could say, oh, Devin did this thing that so-and-so's never done. But let me tell you something, though. Becoming the champ is a lot less tough than staying the champ, keeping the title, defending the belts. Those are the things that determine who the greats are and who the greats aren't, right? John Jones, one of the greatest of all times, he's defended that belt 15 times. That's a crazy number, right? Devin, on the other hand, is yet to prove he's the best 147. You could ask who's better than him. And I could say Ryan Garcia. Now, I realize that that fight didn't count anymore, but God damn it. I realize that fight didn't count, but what I'm trying to say is that that's somebody that's beaten Devin, right? So if Devin is if we want to have the best at 140 and the best at 147 fight each other, then please one of y'all give me the argument of why it's Devin and not Ryan Garcia. Ryan beat Devin. And again, the fight was overturned, but we're getting rid of narratives, right? We're looking at things straight and simple. And all I know is that Devin got exposed. And it may be because it was an illegal thing that Ryan was taking, whatever, but ultimately that's what we know. So I don't know. I don't see why it's worth it to Shakur to like keep his word on this. See, you're stuck on the weight. I'm saying the weight was thrown out there thinking Devin would say no. And then when he said yes, we immediately stopped. There was no negotiation. That's the issue. And so what I'm telling you is that I understand that's the point you're making. But what I'm saying is that the conversation of 144 wasn't even real. Without there being any negotiation of money, right? There's no negotiation for a fight. So the idea that he's ducking, it's unsubstantiated because there was never a fight, right? It's easy to just say 144 on Twitter, Mex. You know that. It's a lot harder to show proof of funds and escrow and solidify two major egos, especially when that one of those egos could make an argument that he's the A side, Shakur. Again, I'm not saying either guy's the A side over the other. I'm just saying you could make the argument that Shakur is the A side. And so for the A side to be accepting the terms of Devin and there not to be any money, I'm not saying you're crying. Like, I don't mean like, oh, you're crying or you get emotional. I mean like you're mad or you're upset at something that wasn't real. You're mad at Santa not bringing the gifts, champ. When I know you fucking know it's your parents dropping that shit off. You know that, Mex. You know it's your fucking parents. And yet you're out here fucking acting like Santa didn't come, like looking at this fucking roof, like where's the sleigh? There was no money. There was no fight. And so at the end of the day, maybe you're right. Maybe he threw out 144 thinking Devin would say no. But here's the other part. Devin knew that there wasn't a fight despite him saying 144 too. So while you're saying that one side is just trying to finesse and make themselves look better than they are, Devin's doing the same thing. So why aren't you holding him to that, right? You're holding Shakur to this old notion that fucking Ness used to talk about. Like, oh, he said this, he said that. And it's like, yeah, and everyone lies. Every single fighter, every single promoter has said something that isn't true. Has said that they would do something that they ended up thinking later, nope, that's not the time. Listen, I am as disappointed as y'all that we're not getting this fight. I think, though, the difference is I was disappointed the fact it was going to be a catch weight in the first place. So I'm not upset at all if within the next 18 months that fight is fought at full-fledged welterweight. Then I'm okay with that. It doesn't matter, Mario. I don't care that some Houston rap mogul don't like it. Shakur's taking the L, and whether it's Jay Queen or whoever, Shakur got his bluff called. Yeah, I agree that Cameron and the Breakfast Club and a bunch of these casuals are going to come in and be like, oh, Shakur's a duck, blah, blah. Yeah, they don't understand the sport. I'm okay with that. You know, they don't understand negotiations. They don't understand the driving force of these fighters. Certainly not the way we do in this community. So like, yeah, I'm not, I know that he's taking the L online. I know that casual fans are calling him out. That doesn't bother me. It does bother me a little bit that y'all are. I'll be honest. It does. And not like, obviously, oh, you're disappointing me like I'm your fucking dad. Not at all. I just feel like y'all are purposely trying to muddy the waters for some disdain for Shakur that I wasn't even aware of that y'all had. And you're trying to like position the narrative in a way that fits the ducking thing, right? And it's not that I'm against that or I'm trying to shape a different narrative. It's that like you're trying to tell me that like like you're trying to tell me that the Loch Ness monster is real, but you never even been to Scotland. Like, you're trying to tell me it's real, but you never even been to the water. Like, I can't look at this transpondence between Devin Haney and Shakur Stevenson as an adult who has seen this kind of stuff before and say this is anything but fucking bullshit. Like, when the people that have to get paid are satisfied with the money they're going to get, that's when we'll get the fight. And here's the thing. They'll tell Shakur what fucking weight class he's fighting at. They're going to say, no. You're fighting at 145. You're fighting at 143. You're fighting at 147. That's what's going to end up happening one day. So, again, I'm not going to hold all this on Shakur, especially because I don't know who he's fighting next, right? Like, there are fights that would be made that are maybe not just as good as Devin, but certainly tell you a lot and certainly make a bigger claim for who's better at 140. I am willing to say Shakur is the best at 140. I don't think he's proven it, but I'm willing to say he is. I'm not willing to say Shakur has proven it, nor am I willing to say that I'm sure he beats every 147 guy. And thus, why do we need this fight? At 144, I mean. Yep, Jey Uso won. Again, but what is the number? There is no finances or offer, not worth 144, because, again, we never got there, Mario. So you can't say it or didn't make financial sense because there was no. Here's what I can say, though. You're right. I can't say that the financial offer made no sense because I don't know that that's the case, right? What I do know is this: in my entire history of covering the sport and of all the things that I've heard about negotiations, nothing is real without the money first. That's the first conversation. It is the split. It's the money and it's the split. So the fact that these two guys were, talking shit on Twitter with each other, like, I don't know. I feel like I shouldn't have to explain this, but Mex, you realize that Shakur is not the arbitrator for the negotiations, right? Like, he's not the negotiator. He's not the guy who's asking. Like, he's not determining anything. They will come to him and tell him this stuff. So the idea that we didn't have any financial conversation, so I can't use that to defend Shakur, is you giving Shakur the win. Because, again, if all you were talking about is the hypothetical weight, that's as far as you got, you didn't have shit, champ. You didn't have shit until the fucking white lawyers were involved. You didn't have shit until the fucking networks were involved and the companies that are going to fork over this money, right? You didn't have shit. So, don't come to me crying about, oh, he ain't going to accept 144, even though he said 144. It was a finesse move. Fine. It was a finesse move. What about it? So then Devin, fight somebody good now. So fight somebody badass now. Go ahead and fight Keyshawn then. Go ahead. You said it. You said you want to fight either. Go ahead and fight Keyshawn now. Right? Because if Devin just goes back and then he goes and fights I don't know, anybody else, right? The level of Ramirez, right? Then this is all cap. This is all bullshit, right? This is him knowing that Shakur's people and his handlers weren't going to let him off that leash. So Devin's finessing the game too by picking on a guy that's got a boss, right? Remember when Floyd used to tell everybody, oh, you got a boss. Yeah, bro, he got a boss too. Mario, don't be one of those guys that doesn't accept the repercussions of the rules Ryan broke in that Haney fight. We have the right to discredit that fight until they fight again. Absolutely. You are right, Matt. Now, let me ask you this. Would we have the right to discredit a fight against Haney and Shakur if the weight was not amicable? Like, if one of them said, oh man, I was super drained or I just couldn't move in there, would that be the same sort of situation? Right? I don't know if you can, you could absolutely say you could discredit the fight 100%. It should not count. And I agree. Okay. That said, can't erase it from our memories. Can't erase it. And the fact that I know that it's happened, I know that it can happen again. The fact that it happened means it can happen again. I haven't seen it happen to Shakur, So ultimately, all I'm going to say is that right now, if I was buying stock, I would rather have Shakur stock because It is higher and it looks more promising, right? Devin is a buy low stock, right? He's a guy who he got exposed. Lucky enough, he was able to get it all tossed back and it not affect his career on paper. But you can't forget what you saw. I'll always see it. I'll always see it. Hey, you know who else? Fucking Nate was a great basketball player. I'll never unsee his ass slept. Never. All of your points would make sense if we had a negotiation, which there was none. And your point would be valid, but it's not at all because we didn't, right? So they weren't in negotiations, right? That's what you're saying. And I'm saying the same thing. So that 144 stuff was bullshit. That's just shit talk. That's them fucking shooting the shit. What contract? There was no contract. And again, 144 contract does not mean Shakur has to go up to 144. And you know that. Sure, absolutely. He could give a 1, 2, 3-point-pound weight advantage to his opponent. He could easily do that. But that's not a like, again, I think you're saying like, oh, if Shakur is so good, he could be 142 and beat him. Sure. But I don't think that. I don't think he's proven that. I don't think we're there to believe that that's the narrative. And just because Shakur says it doesn't mean it's a reason to believe it or a reason to root against it, right? Every fighter calls themselves the best. That guy that just went, I did. That guy that beat Morrell, that guy said he could beat Benavidez. So if he doesn't beat Benavidez, Mex, is he a fucking liar and piece of shit moron? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you're holding these fighters to these fucking things that mean nothing. Because if Devin and Bill were for real, they would have that money. They would have that money and we would know what that money is. They would have come out and they would have told Ness, you know what, Ness, we just offered this man, we just offered this man $50 million, Ness. And he did not take it. We said 144. He said, no, not for 50. So we said, fine, we'll give you an extra $5 million for every pound. 3 pounds, Ness. So that was, what did I say, 50? So that was 75 million, Ness, or 65 million, Ness, that we were going to give him, Ness. That's where we were, Ness. And he didn't take it. Boom. That's fucked up. That's crazy. That's a narrative. But to be like, oh man, he didn't fucking take it and he did this and he did that. Like, bro, y'all weren't even talking. What are you talking about? I would literally have zero issue with any of your points if we had negotiated, but we didn't get to negotiate. Shakur did not allow that to happen. You keep staying stuck on weight. That's never been my stance. My stance is he got his bluff called. I can absolutely agree with he got his bluff called. Absolutely agree with that. The bluff was an online ruse from Haney. It was not a bluff against an actual offer and or actual attempt to make the fight, right? You could have two people saying, yeah, we're trying to make the fight. But if all you're doing is having internet conversations, then that's not, we've seen enough of that to know it doesn't work. Fuck. No. She just called me. Damn it. My niece's boyfriend's car is stuck at the movies. Fuck. Okay. All right, guys. I'm going to tap out real quick. I will come back on Twitch and probably YouTube for some gaming sessions. Mex, if you want to jump on, I will send you the link specifically. Probably won't open chat tonight, but we'll see. But Mex, I will send to you specifically if you want to jump on. I will be back in, I'll say 30 minutes, maybe 40 at the tops. All right. Appreciate everybody tapped in. Infight and FX will be live again tomorrow for the Bam fight, as well as the San Antonio Spurs and New York Knicks. And then we'll be live again for UFC 250 White House card on Sunday. So make sure you sub, make sure you follow, hit Infight and FX up on all platforms, and make sure you go to fightsatw.com. Check out my recap for tonight's show, as well as recaps for all of your combat sports needs. Yeah. All right. We'll be right back. I appreciate everybody. Peace.